The cafe clock showed 9:47 p.m. when Claire Whitman finally accepted the truth. He wasn't coming. The powerful CEO who commanded boardrooms full of executives sat alone by a frost-covered window, watching families pass by in the Christmas Eve snow. She'd waited 3 hours for a man she'd never met, a blind date arranged by her well-meaning assistant. Across the city, Ethan Moore sprinted through icy streets, his 7-year-old daughter's hand gripped tight in his, knowing he was impossibly late, knowing she probably left, but running anyway because maybe, just maybe, someone might finally wait for him. Before we begin, if you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story travels. And if this story touches your heart, hit that like button and stay until the very end. Because what happens next will restore your faith in second chances. The first snowfall of December always made Claire Whitman remember what loneliness felt like. Not the kind of loneliness that came from being alone. She'd mastered solitude years ago, turned it into an armor that protected her in glass-walled conference rooms and charity galas, where everyone wanted something. No, this was the deeper kind, the kind that settled into your bones during the holidays when the entire world seemed paired off, wrapped in warm embraces while you stood outside looking in. She pressed her palm against the cafe window, feeling the cold seep through the glass. Outside, Christmas Eve unfolded in perfect cinematic sequences, couples sharing scarves, children tugging their parents toward store windows still glowing with holiday displays, an elderly man helping his wife navigate an icy patch on the sidewalk. Everyone had someone, everyone except her. "More tea, Miss Whitman?" The barista appeared at her elbow, concern evident in her young face. The girl couldn't have been more than 22, probably working holiday shifts to pay for college. She'd been refilling Claire's cup every 20 minutes for the past 2 hours, each time with a sympathetic smile that made Claire want to crawl under the table. "No, thank you, Maya." Claire glanced at the name tag, made herself smile. People skills, even when your heart was cracking. Especially then. "I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. The tea had gone cold an hour ago, and she'd stopped drinking it around the same time she'd stopped checking her phone every 30 seconds. Now it was just a prop, something to wrap her hands around so she looked less pathetic sitting alone in a cafe on Christmas Eve. 6:45, the invitation had said. The corner cafe on Madison Street. I'll be the one trying not to look nervous. She'd laughed when she read that last line, had felt a flutter of something that might have been hope. The messages leading up to tonight had been different from the usual corporate small talk that filled her days. Thoughtful. Funny. Real. In a way that made her think maybe Rachel had been right. Maybe it was time to try again. Just one date, her assistant had pleaded 3 weeks ago, practically vibrating with excitement as she perched on the edge of Claire's desk. My cousin knows this guy. He's perfect for you. Successful, smart, great sense of humor. And Claire, he's been through some stuff too. He gets it. Claire had wanted to say no, should have said no. She'd built an empire by trusting her instincts, and her instincts said that 38-year-old CEOs didn't find love through blind dates arranged by overeager assistants. But Rachel had looked so hopeful, and Claire had been so tired of spending Friday nights alone in her penthouse, watching other people's lives unfold on Netflix, while hers remained stubbornly static. So she'd said yes, had let herself imagine just for a moment that maybe this time would be different. 7:15 her phone had read when she first checked it. 15 minutes late. Traffic, probably. Christmas Eve in the city was chaos. 7:45, 30 minutes. Maybe he'd gotten caught up at work. She understood that better than anyone. How a single meeting could spiral. How deadlines didn't care about personal plans. 8:30. An hour and 45 minutes. The excuses were getting harder to manufacture. Now, at 9:47, there were no excuses left. Just the cold, hard truth that she'd been stood up. Again. Because apparently even success and power and a corner office with a view of the entire city couldn't make someone worth waiting for. Claire gathered her coat, a charcoal cashmere that had cost more than most people's monthly rent. Armor of a different kind. She was fishing for her wallet when her phone buzzed. Her heart jumped. Stupid, treacherous organ. But it was just her mother. "Merry Christmas Eve, darling. Your father and I are at the Hendersons' party. You should be here. Everyone's asking about you. When are you going to stop hiding behind that company and find yourself a life? Claire deleted the message without responding. Her mother had never understood that Whitman Industries wasn't where she hid from life. It was the only place where life made sense, where hard work meant results, where contracts were honored, where if someone said they'd meet you at 6:45, they actually showed up. Unlike blind dates who left you sitting alone in cafes while Christmas carolers strolled past the windows singing about joy and peace and goodwill toward men. Leaving, Miss Whitman? Maya appeared again, and this time Claire heard the pity in her voice. Yes. Thank you for your patience tonight. Claire pulled out a $100 bill, left it on the table. Merry Christmas, Maya. Ms. Whitman, that's too much. Buy yourself something nice. You've earned it. Claire was halfway to the door when she heard it, a child's laughter, bright and pure, cutting through the cafe's ambient jazz. She turned instinctively toward the sound and saw a little girl, maybe 6 or 7, sitting with her grandfather at a corner table, both of them bent over a coloring book. The girl's tongue poked out in concentration as she carefully stayed within the lines of what looked like a Christmas tree. Something twisted in Claire's chest. She'd wanted that once. The family, the traditions, the casual intimacy of coloring books and cocoa. Had almost had it, before Michael showed her exactly what happened when you let someone past your defenses. Before she learned that love was just another word for leverage, and vulnerability was a weakness people exploited. She pushed through the cafe door, and the cold hit her like a slap. The temperature had dropped at least 10 degrees since she'd arrived, and the earlier gentle snowfall had turned aggressive, thick flakes swirling in the streetlight beams. Her driver would be circling the block. She'd told him 9:30, never imagining she'd wait this long. But Claire couldn't bring herself to call him yet. Instead, she stood on the sidewalk, letting the snow gather in her hair, watching the warm glow of the cafe recede behind her. Through the window, she could see her empty table, the teacup Maya was already clearing away. Evidence of her evening erased in seconds, like she'd never been there at all. A couple brushed past her, wrapped around each other, laughing at some private joke. The woman wore a coat that was more fashion than function, and the man was already shrugging out of his jacket to drape over her shoulders. Such an old gesture, Claire thought. Such a simple one. When was the last time someone had done something like that for her? When was the last time she'd let them? Her phone buzzed again. Rachel this time. How's it going? Is he amazing? Tell me everything. Claire's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She could lie, say something came up at work, preserve her dignity for another day. But she was so tired of lying, of pretending everything was fine, when she felt like she was slowly disappearing into the life she'd built. He didn't show, she typed, then deleted it. Tried again. Not a good match, but that felt cowardly. Finally, she settled on, I'm heading home. We'll talk Monday. She was about to call her driver when movement caught her eye. Someone running, actually running, down the snowy sidewalk. In this weather, in this cold, who would... The figure got closer, and Claire could make out more details. A man, tall, dark hair plastered to his forehead, with snow and sweat. No coat despite the temperature. And beside him, struggling to keep up, a small figure in a bright red jacket. A child. They were still half a block away when the man looked up and saw her. Even from that distance, Claire registered his expression, hope and desperation in equal measure. He said something to the child, and they both picked up speed, nearly slipping on an icy patch before regaining their balance. Claire's hand tightened on her phone. This couldn't be. They were close enough now that she could see his face clearly. Late 30s, dark eyes wide with something that looked like panic, clothes that had definitely seen better days. The little girl beside him wore light-up sneakers that flashed with each step, her breath coming in visible puffs. The man skidded to a stop 3 feet from her, so abruptly that the girl crashed into his leg. For a moment they just stood there, all three of them, while snow fell and carolers sang somewhere in the distance, and the entire world seemed to hold its breath. Claire? The man's voice was rough, winded. Claire Whitman? She couldn't speak, could only stare at this disheveled stranger, and the child clutching his hand, both of them soaked through and shivering. I'm Ethan. He gulped air, pressed a hand to his side like he had a stitch. Ethan Moore. I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm so sorry. I can explain everything. I swear I can explain. Just please. His voice cracked. Please don't leave yet. The little girl looked up at her with enormous brown eyes, and Claire felt something fundamental shift in her chest. Hi, the child said, waving one mittened hand. I'm Lily. Are you my daddy's date? On. 3 hours earlier. Ethan Moore had exactly $47 in his checking account, a daughter who needed new winter boots, and 30 minutes to transform himself from exhausted single father into someone a successful woman might actually want to spend an evening with. The odds were not in his favor. Daddy, your tie is crooked. Lily appeared in his bedroom doorway, already dressed in her pajamas even though it was barely 6 o'clock. She'd picked the ones with snowflakes, her favorites, and her dark hair was still damp from her bath. Want me to fix it? Please. Ethan knelt down to her level, felt her small fingers work the knot with surprising expertise. At 7 years old, Lily had become adept at things children shouldn't have to know. How to tie a tie, how to make box mac and cheese, how to be quiet when Daddy was on an important phone call with potential clients who might, maybe, possibly hire him again. There. She stepped back, assessed him with the critical eye she'd inherited from her mother. You look very handsome. The lady is going to like you. You think so? Ethan checked his reflection in the mirror over his dresser. The suit was the same one he'd worn to job interviews for the past 6 months, slightly too big now after the stress weight he'd lost. The shirt was clean but not crisp. Their iron had broken 3 weeks ago, and a new one wasn't in the budget. The tie, now properly knotted, was the nicest thing he owned, a Christmas gift from better days. He looked like a man trying too hard. Looked exactly like what he was, someone desperate for this to work. I know so. Lily climbed onto his bed, sat cross-legged in the center of his faded comforter. Mrs. Chen says you need someone to make you smile again. She says you work too hard and forget to be happy. Ethan's jaw tightened. Mrs. Chen, their neighbor who watched Lily most evenings while Ethan drove for a rideshare service, meant well. But she had no idea what it took to keep their heads above water, to make sure Lily had everything she needed even when it meant Ethan had nothing. Mrs. Chen talks too much, he said, softer than he intended. And I'm plenty happy. I have you, don't I? You have me. Lily's expression turned serious, the way it sometimes did when she seemed older than her years. But you should have more happy, Daddy, not just me happy. The words hit him harder than they should have. When had his daughter started worrying about his happiness? When had he let his loneliness become so obvious that a 7-year-old felt responsible for fixing it? Come here, Lilybug. He sat beside her, pulled her into his lap. She was getting so big, would probably tell him soon that she was too old for lap-sitting. But for now, she curled into him, small and warm and trusting. You're all the happy I need. This date tonight, it's just dinner, just conversation. Don't build it up into something bigger than it is, okay? But what if she's nice? What if you really like her? Then I'll see her again. And if not, no big deal. He pressed a kiss to the top of her head, breathed in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. Either way, you're stuck with me. Good. She wrapped her arms around his neck. I like being stuck with you. Ethan's phone alarm chimed. 6:15. Time to get Lily over to Mrs. Chen's apartment and catch the bus across town. He had 45 minutes, plenty of time. The universe owed him at least this, one evening where nothing went wrong. Okay, Bug, grab your backpack. Did you pack your reading homework like I asked? Lily scrambled off the bed, and Ethan took one last look in the mirror, smoothed his hair, checked his teeth, wondered for the 100th time what he was doing. Claire Whitman was a CEO. According to Rachel, ran a huge company, lived in one of those penthouses he'd designed back when he was still an architect, before the firm downsized and his carefully constructed life imploded. What would a woman like that want with a guy like him? Ready! Lily appeared with her backpack, the one with the cartoon cats that was starting to fray at the seams. New backpack, he added mentally to the list of things she needed. Right after boots and before a birthday party he couldn't afford to throw. They were halfway down the hallway when someone knocked on the door. 3 quick raps, then Mrs. Chen's voice. Ethan? Are you there? Dread pooled in Ethan's stomach. Mrs. Chen never came up unless something was wrong. He opened the door to find his elderly neighbor in her coat, worry lines deep around her eyes. "I'm so sorry," she said before he could speak. "My daughter just called. My grandson is in the emergency room. They think it's appendicitis. I have to go. I have to leave right now." The world tilted. Of course. Of course you do. Will he be okay? They don't know yet. I'm so sorry about tonight. I know you had plans. Don't apologize. Family first. Go. Be with them. Ethan was already calculating, already trying to solve the unsolvable. He could call the other neighbors, but the Johnsons were visiting family out of state, and the Patels both worked nights. His parents lived 3 hours away. There was no one. "I'll figure something out." Mrs. Chen squeezed his hand, her skin papery and cold. "Call your date. Explain. She'll understand." Would she? Ethan didn't even have Claire's number. Everything had been arranged through Rachel, his cousin's wife, who'd been trying to set him up for months. He had a name, a place, a time. That was it. He closed the door, leaned against it, felt the panic start to rise. This was it. This was exactly the kind of thing that happened to him now. The universe dangling something good just close enough to see before yanking it away. He couldn't go, couldn't leave Lily alone. But he also couldn't stand her up, couldn't let another opportunity slip through his fingers because his life was held together with duct tape and prayer. "Daddy?" Lily's voice was small. "What are we going to do?" Ethan looked at his daughter, at her worried face and her snowflake pajamas, and felt something settle in his chest. This was his life. This was his reality, and any woman worth his time would have to understand that. "Change of plans, Bug," he said, forcing brightness into his voice. "How would you like to come with Daddy on his date?" Lily's eyes went wide. "Really? But won't the lady mind?" "If she minds, then she's not the right lady. Now go put on your red jacket, the warm one, and your good shoes. We're going to be late, but we're going together." 10 minutes later, they were at the bus stop, Lily bouncing on her light-up sneakers while Ethan checked the time obsessively on his phone. 6:37. The bus was supposed to come at 6:35. He could still make it, could still walk in maybe 20 minutes late with a good explanation and an adorable kid to soften the blow. The universe wasn't finished with him yet. At 6:45, the exact moment he was supposed to be walking into the cafe, the bus still hadn't come. At 7, Ethan was on the phone with the transit authority, learning that the bus had broken down and a replacement wouldn't arrive for at least another 40 minutes. "Daddy, it's okay," Lily said, tugging on his coat. "We can try again another night." But Ethan was already doing the math. The cafe was on Madison Street, maybe 3 miles from here. 3 miles in the snow, with a 7-year-old. Impossible. Insane. He thought about Claire Whitman sitting in that cafe, waiting. Thought about the messages they'd exchanged, the way she'd signed her last one. "Looking forward to meeting you, Ethan. I think this might be something good." When was the last time he'd had something good? "Lily," he said, crouching down to meet her eyes. "How do you feel about an adventure?" Oh. By the time they reached Madison Street, Ethan's lungs were burning and Lily was flagging despite her best efforts. They'd run when they could, walked when they couldn't, navigating icy sidewalks and holiday crowds while Ethan silently cataloged everything that could go wrong. Lily could get sick from the cold. She could slip and fall. He could be dragging her across town for nothing because surely, the woman was long gone. But they kept going because Ethan had learned a long time ago that stopping meant giving up, and giving up was a luxury he couldn't afford. "There," Lily pointed ahead. "I see it, the corner cafe." Ethan's heart hammered as they approached. Through the frosted windows, he could see people inside, warm and dry and normal. And there, standing on the sidewalk like she was waiting for a cab, was a woman in a charcoal coat, dark hair falling loose around her shoulders, snowflakes catching in the strands. A face that was beautiful in a way that made Ethan's breath catch. Not magazine cover beauty, but something deeper. The kind of face that told stories if you looked long enough. "Claire?" he heard himself say as they stumbled to a stop in front of her. "Claire Whitman?" She turned, and Ethan saw everything play across her features in seconds. Surprise, confusion, assessment. Her eyes traveled from his face to Lily's and back again, and Ethan waited for the judgment, the dismissal, the polite words that would send him back into the cold. Instead, after Lily's cheerful introduction, Claire did something Ethan hadn't expected. She smiled. Not a polite CEO smile or a forced social smile. A real one, small and uncertain, that reached her eyes and made them warm. "Hi, Lily," she said, her voice softer than Ethan had imagined. "It's very nice to meet you." She looked at Ethan, and he saw the question there, the wariness, but also curiosity. "And Ethan, you ran all the way here?" "The bus broke down." The words tumbled out. "Our babysitter had an emergency. I couldn't leave Lily alone, and I didn't have your number to call, and I know I'm late, and I know this looks crazy bringing my daughter to a first date, but I couldn't just not show up. I couldn't just—" He stopped, realized he was rambling, tried again. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for making you wait." 3 hours, Claire said quietly. "I waited 3 hours." Ethan felt his last hope crumble. Of course. 3 hours. She'd given him 3 hours, and then he'd shown up like this, a mess, with a child in tow. What had he been thinking? "I understand," he started. I shouldn't have." "Why?" Claire interrupted. She was looking at him strangely, her head tilted. "Why did you come? After 3 hours in a snowstorm, you had to know I'd probably be gone. Why not just call it a loss?" Ethan met her eyes, and something in her gaze made him honest. "Because you waited," he said simply. "Because someone waited for me, and that hasn't happened in a very long time. Because maybe, just maybe, that meant something." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the sound of Lily's light-up shoes tapping the sidewalk. Then Claire smiled again, wider this time, and gestured toward the cafe. "I was just about to leave," she said. "But I think I could stay for 1 cup of coffee, if you're interested." "I'm very interested," Ethan said, and he heard the truth in his own voice. "And hot chocolate," Lily chimed in. "With marshmallows, please." Claire laughed, actually laughed, and the sound was like something unlocking. Hot chocolate with marshmallows sounds perfect. She held the cafe door open, warm light spilling out onto the snowy sidewalk, and Ethan felt Lily's hand tighten in his. "Is she nice, Daddy?" Lily whispered. Ethan watched Claire move toward a table by the window, saw her brush snow from her hair with an unconscious grace, saw the way she checked to make sure they were following before sitting down. "Yeah, Bug," he whispered back. "I think she might be." They stepped into the warmth together, leaving the cold and the chaos behind, and somewhere in the back of Ethan's mind, a voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, the universe wasn't finished with him after all. Maybe it was just getting started. The cafe felt different from the inside, warmer than Claire had expected, almost oppressively so after the bitter cold outside. She watched Ethan help Lily out of her bright red jacket, his movements practiced and gentle, the kind that spoke of years doing this same routine. The little girl's cheeks were flushed pink from the cold and the run, her dark hair escaping from what had probably started as neat pigtails hours ago. Claire's hands were still shaking slightly as she sat down. She wasn't sure if it was from the cold or from the adrenaline of what had just happened. 10 minutes ago, she'd been walking away from this entire evening, ready to write off blind dates and hope and the whole messy business of trying to connect with another human being. Now she was sitting across from a man who'd run 3 miles through a snowstorm with his daughter in tow because he didn't want to stand her up. When was the last time anyone had fought that hard just to see her? "I'll get the drinks," Ethan said, already half standing. "What would you like? Coffee? Tea? Something stronger?" He attempted a smile, but Claire could see the nervousness underneath it, the way his eyes kept darting to hers and then away, like he was afraid of what he might find there. "Just coffee? Black." She looked at Lily, who had climbed into the chair next to her father and was now swinging her light-up sneakers, creating little flashes of pink and blue. "And hot chocolate with marshmallows, right?" Lily's face lit up. "Extra marshmallows if they have them." "I'll see what I can do." Ethan squeezed his daughter's shoulder, then headed toward the counter, leaving Claire alone with the 7-year-old who was now studying her with open curiosity. "You're very pretty," Lily announced. "Like a princess." "Are you a princess?" Claire felt a laugh bubble up, unexpected and genuine. "No, sweetheart, definitely not a princess. Just a regular person." Daddy says there's no such thing as regular people. He says everyone's special in different ways. Lily pulled a coloring book from her backpack, the same one Claire had noticed earlier with the grandfather, and flipped it open to a half-finished Christmas tree. Do you like to color? I used to. When I was your age? Claire watched the girl select a green crayon with careful consideration. I haven't colored in a very long time. That's sad. Lily pushed the coloring book across the table. You can help me if you want. This tree needs a star on top, but I'm not good at stars yet. Claire picked up a yellow crayon, felt the waxy texture between her fingers. How many years had it been since she'd held a crayon? 20? 30? Her life had become all sharp edges and clean lines, spreadsheets and contracts. Nothing as simple and pure as a yellow star on a Christmas tree. She drew the star carefully, trying to remember the technique from elementary school. 5 points, not too perfect, just right for a child's coloring book. It's beautiful, Lily beamed. You're really good at stars. Thank you, Claire found herself smiling back. You're really good at green. This tree looks perfect. From the corner of her eye, she saw Ethan at the counter, watching them. Their eyes met across the cafe, and something passed between them. An understanding, maybe, or just the acknowledgement that this situation was bizarre and awkward, and somehow exactly right. He returned a few minutes later with their drinks balanced on a small tray. The hot chocolate was piled high with marshmallows, exactly as Lily had requested, and Claire's coffee came in a proper ceramic mug, still steaming. They didn't have extra marshmallows, Ethan said apologetically. But Maya, the barista, she said these were the last ones from the back, so there's actually more than usual. Maya's nice, Claire said. She's been taking care of me all evening. The words hung there, a reminder of how long she'd waited, of how this evening had already gone so far off script that there was no pretending it was anything close to normal. Ethan sat down heavily, and for a moment none of them spoke. Lily slurped her hot chocolate, leaving a marshmallow mustache on her upper lip. Ethan stared at his coffee like it might hold answers, and Claire tried to figure out what she was supposed to do now, how this was supposed to work. I really am sorry, Ethan said finally, his voice low enough that Lily, absorbed in her coloring, didn't seem to notice. I know this isn't what you signed up for. If you want to leave, I'll understand. No hard feelings. Claire took a sip of her coffee, buying time. What did she want? An hour ago, the answer would have been simple. To go home, to forget this whole evening, to add it to the growing list of disappointments that came with trying to find connection in a world that seemed designed to keep people apart. But now, watching this man who'd literally run through a snowstorm because he'd given his word, sitting with his daughter who'd just complimented her star-drawing skills, Claire wasn't sure anymore. Tell me what happened, she said instead. The whole story. From the beginning. Ethan exhaled, and some of the tension seemed to leave his shoulders. He told her about Mrs. Chen, about the grandson's emergency, about standing in his hallway trying to solve an impossible problem, about making the choice to bring Lily because leaving her alone was never an option, because his daughter was part of who he was, and any woman worth his time would need to understand that. The bus was supposed to come at 6:35, he said, tracing patterns in the condensation on his coffee mug. By 7, I knew we'd missed it. I could have gone home. Probably should have. But I kept thinking about you sitting here waiting, and I couldn't do that to someone. Couldn't be another person who makes promises they don't keep. So you ran. Claire said it as a statement, not a question. So we ran. He glanced at Lily, who was now adding ornaments to her tree with a red crayon. 3 miles in the snow with a 7-year-old. I'm pretty sure there's a parenting manual somewhere that says that's a terrible idea. Probably right next to the chapter about bringing your kid on a first date. Ethan winced. Yeah, that too. Claire found herself studying him more carefully now. The suit that had probably fit better a year ago, suggesting weight loss to stress. The shoes that were polished but worn at the heels. The haircut that was growing out like visiting a barber was a luxury he couldn't quite afford. And underneath it all, a kind of exhaustion that Claire recognized because she saw it in her own mirror every morning. The weariness of someone who'd been fighting for a long time and wasn't sure how much longer they could keep it up. Rachel told me you're an architect, she said. Something flickered in Ethan's eyes. Pain, maybe, or regret. Was. I was an architect. The firm I worked for downsized 18 months ago. Haven't been able to find anything permanent since. What do you do now? Whatever pays the bills. Rideshare driving mostly. Some freelance drafting work when I can get it. He said it matter-of-factly, but Claire heard the shame underneath. It's not glamorous, but it keeps us fed and housed. That's what matters. Lily looked up from her coloring. Daddy's really good at designing buildings. He showed me pictures once of this huge place with lots of glass and a garden on the roof. He made that. Did he? Claire smiled at the girl's pride, saw Ethan's cheeks redden. It was just one project, and it was a long time ago. The Riverside Complex, Lily insisted. I remember because it sounds like a superhero headquarters. Recognition sparked in Claire's mind. The Riverside Complex. She'd been to a conference there 2 years ago, had been impressed by the way natural light flooded the atrium, by the innovative use of green space in an urban setting. That had been Ethan's work? That building is remarkable, she said quietly. I had a meeting there once. The sustainability features alone were ahead of their time. Ethan's head jerked up. You know it? Know it? I tried to hire the architect for our new headquarters, but by the time we started the project, the firm said you'd moved on. She paused. They didn't mention you'd been let go. They wouldn't. Ethan's jaw tightened. Official story is that I left to pursue other opportunities. Sounds better than admitting they couldn't afford to keep their entire design team. Claire wanted to ask more about the firm, about why 18 months had passed without him landing something new, about what it felt like to have a career you'd built just vanish overnight. She knew something about that, about how fragile success could be, how quickly everything could change. But Lily was yawning, her head drooping despite the sugar from the hot chocolate, and Claire realized with a start that it was nearly 10:30. This child should have been in bed hours ago. Someone's getting sleepy. Ethan noticed too, concern crossing his face. Lily, Bug, you okay? I'm not tired, Lily mumbled, even as her eyes struggled to stay open. Just resting my eyes. Sure you are. Ethan scooped her up easily, settling her against his shoulder. She curled into him immediately, her small body trusting and relaxed. I should get her home. This was... Thank you. For staying. For giving me a chance to explain. He was already gathering Lily's things, clearly preparing to leave, and Claire felt something twist in her chest. This was it. He'd go back to his life of rideshare driving and freelance work and struggling to make ends meet, and she'd go back to her penthouse and her company and her carefully constructed loneliness, and this bizarre evening would become just another story about what might have been. Wait, she heard herself say. My car is right outside. Let me drive you home. Ethan froze. Claire, that's not necessary. We can take the bus. In this weather? With a sleeping child? She was already pulling out her phone, texting her driver. It's late, it's freezing, and you've both been out in the cold long enough. Please, let me do this. She watched him wrestle with pride and practicality, saw the moment practicality won. Okay, he said softly. Thank you. The drive to Ethan's apartment took 20 minutes, the city streets quiet with late-night Christmas Eve stillness. Lily slept through the entire journey, her head on Ethan's shoulder, her light-up sneakers leaving small wet marks on the leather seat. Claire's driver, James, didn't comment on their unexpected passengers, just drove smoothly through the snow-covered streets while Christmas lights blurred past the windows. Claire found herself acutely aware of Ethan beside her in the back seat, the way he kept one hand protectively on Lily's back, the way he stared out the window like he was memorizing the view. She wondered what he was thinking, whether he was as confused by this evening as she was, whether he felt the same strange pull she did. This is it, Ethan said as they pulled up to a modest apartment building in a neighborhood Claire rarely visited. The kind of place where rent was cheap because nothing else was nearby, where the building's brick facade hadn't seen maintenance in years, where Christmas decorations were sparse because money went to heat and food first. Claire looked at the building, then at Ethan, and felt the distance between their lives like a physical thing. This was his world, cramped apartments and broken buses and making $47 stretch until payday. Her world was penthouses and private drivers and never having to think twice about ordering extra marshmallows. How was this supposed to work? Thank you, Ethan said again. For everything. For waiting, for listening, for the ride. You didn't have to do any of it. I know? Claire surprised herself with her honesty. I wanted to. He shifted Lily in his arms, preparing to get out, and Claire knew this was the moment. The moment where she could let him walk away, could chalk this up to an interesting evening and nothing more, could go back to the safe, predictable loneliness she'd mastered, or she could choose differently. Ethan. His name felt strange on her tongue, intimate somehow. Can I ask you something? He paused, one hand on the door handle. Of course. Why architecture? What made you want to design buildings? The question clearly surprised him. He settled back into the seat, adjusting Lily's weight, thinking. When I was a kid, he said slowly, my family lost our house. Bank foreclosure, middle of winter, the whole nightmare scenario. We ended up in this shelter downtown, just one big room with cots, no privacy, no space that was ours. He looked down at Lily, sleeping peacefully against his chest. I remember thinking that whoever designed that place had never been homeless, had never understood what it felt like to have nowhere to belong. Because if they had, they would have made it different, warmer, more human. Claire felt her throat tighten. I wanted to design spaces that understood people, Ethan continued, that didn't just house bodies but honored lives. Every project I worked on, I tried to remember that somewhere, someone would be making memories in these buildings, falling in love, raising kids, building futures. Architecture isn't just about walls and windows. It's about giving people a place to be fully human. He stopped, seemed to realize how much he'd revealed. Sorry, you probably didn't expect a whole philosophy lecture. No, Claire said quietly. That was perfect. She meant it. In all her years of working with architects and contractors and designers, she'd never heard anyone talk about buildings the way Ethan just had. Most saw structures, profit margins, square footage. Ethan saw humanity. What about you? He asked. Why business? Why CEO? Fair question. Claire considered deflecting, giving him the polished answer she used at networking events and conference panels. But something about this evening, about this man who'd bared so much, made her want to be honest. Control, she said simply. When you're in charge, no one can take things away from you. No one can decide you're not worth keeping. The company answers to me, not the other way around. That sounds lonely. It is. The admission came easier than it should have. But it's safe. And safe feels like enough most of the time. Most of the time, Ethan echoed. But not tonight? Claire looked at him then, really looked at him. At this man who'd run through a snowstorm for her, who carried his sleeping daughter with such tenderness, who'd lost his career and his wife, and probably a dozen other things, but still found ways to be kind, who understood loneliness and fear and the desperate need to protect yourself from more hurt. Not tonight, she agreed. Lily stirred, mumbling something about stars and marshmallows, and the moment broke. Ethan smiled apologetically. I really do need to get her to bed. It's way past her bedtime. Of course. Claire found her business card in her purse, pressed it into his free hand. My direct number's on there. If you'd like to do this again, properly. Just the two of us, maybe. Ethan stared at the card like it might disappear if he looked away. You want to see me again? After all this? Especially after all this. Claire realized she meant it. You showed up, Ethan. Even when it was hard. Even when it would have been easier not to. Do you know how rare that is? I showed up 3 hours late with a kid in tow. Most women would have... I'm not most women, Claire cut him off gently. And this wasn't most dates. Call me. When you have childcare, when you have time, I'll wait. The words echoed between them, carrying more weight than they should. I'll wait. After tonight, they both knew what that promise meant. Ethan climbed out of the car, Lily secure in his arms, and turned back for one last look. I had a really terrible plan for tonight, he said, and Claire could see him smiling even in the dim streetlight. But I think it might have been the best terrible plan I've ever had. Mine too, Claire said, and she was smiling too, wide and genuine, and feeling things she hadn't felt in years. She watched him carry Lily into the building, watched until they disappeared through the security door and the lights came on in what must have been their apartment. Third floor, corner unit, one window already decorated with paper snowflakes that had to be Lily's work. "Home, Ms. Whitman?" James asked from the front seat. Claire thought about her penthouse, about the perfectly decorated Christmas tree she'd paid someone else to put up, about the silence that would greet her when she walked through the door. "Home," she confirmed, but for the first time in years the word felt hollow. The drive back across town gave Claire too much time to think. About Ethan's worn shoes and his daughter's light-up sneakers. About the way he'd talked about architecture like it was a calling, not just a career. About the distance between their worlds and whether it was something that could be bridged or just a gap too wide to cross. Her phone buzzed. Rachel, probably, wanting details. But when Claire looked at the screen, it was a text from a number she didn't recognize. "We made it inside. Lily wanted me to tell you that you're really good at drawing stars, and she hopes you'll color with her again sometime. Also, I wanted to say thank you, not just for tonight, but for seeing me. The real me, with all the complications. That meant more than you know." Ethan. Claire read the message 3 times, felt something warm unfurl in her chest. He'd kept her business card, had already programmed her number into his phone, was already making plans, however tentative, for next time. She typed out a response. "Tell Lily I'd love to color with her again. And Ethan, you don't have to thank me for seeing you. You made it pretty hard to miss." She added her name at the end, then deleted it. Too formal. Added a simple C instead, then sent it before she could overthink it further. His response came quickly. "Is it too soon to call?" Claire's heart jumped. It was nearly 11 on Christmas Eve. She should say yes, should maintain some semblance of normal dating protocol, should not encourage the kind of intensity that came from late-night phone calls after chaotic first dates. "Call me," she typed back. Her phone rang 30 seconds later. "Hi." Ethan's voice was soft, careful not to wake Lily, Claire assumed. "Is this weird?" "This feels weird." "Completely weird," Claire agreed, settling back into the leather seat as James navigated the quiet streets. "We're terrible at this." "The worst." She could hear the smile in his voice. "Lily's finally in bed. I promised her we'd make pancakes in the morning to make up for keeping her out so late." "Does she know what tomorrow is?" "Christmas?" Ethan laughed quietly. "Oh, she knows. She's been counting down since October. I just hope Santa's budget was a little better than mine this year." The casual comment hit Claire harder than it should have. She thought about her own Christmas morning, the expensive gifts her assistant had purchased and wrapped on her behalf, the charity donations she made to feel less guilty about having so much. When was the last time she'd worried about a budget for anything? "What are you doing tomorrow?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. "For Christmas?" "The usual. Pancakes, presents, probably a movie marathon while I pretend to understand whatever cartoon Lily's obsessed with this week. Nothing fancy." He paused. "What about you?" Claire thought about the truth, that she had no plans, that she'd probably work through the holiday like she did most years. That Christmas Day felt like just another reminder of everything she didn't have. "Nothing fancy either," she said instead. "You should come over." The words hung between them, impulsive and impossible. Claire's breath caught. "Ethan, I know, it's crazy. We just met. You probably have family, plans, a whole life I don't know anything about." He was talking fast now, the way people do when they're trying to outrun their own doubts. "But Lily would love it. And honestly, I can't stop thinking about how you waited for me tonight. 3 hours, Claire. When was the last time someone gave me 3 hours of their life just on the chance I might show up?" Never, Claire thought. The answer for both of them was probably never. "I have a very important business meeting tomorrow," she said slowly. "Right. Of course. I shouldn't have," with a 7-year-old consultant regarding the optimal pancake-to-syrup ratio. "What time should I arrive?" Silence. Then Ethan laughed, and it was the most genuine sound Claire had heard in months. 9 too early? 9 is perfect." They talked for another 20 minutes, about nothing and everything. About Lily's favorite movies and Claire's least favorite board meetings. About the Riverside complex and the buildings Ethan still dreamed of designing. About the way snow looked falling past streetlights, and whether hot chocolate was better with marshmallows or whipped cream. When they finally hung up, Claire was pulling up to her building, and she realized she was smiling. Actually smiling, the kind that made her cheeks hurt, the kind she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt. "Good evening, Ms. Whitman," James asked as he opened her door, and there was something knowing in his expression. "Very good evening, James. Thank you." Her penthouse was exactly as she'd left it. Immaculate, expensive, empty. But somehow it felt different tonight. Less like a sanctuary and more like a holding pattern, a place she'd been waiting in until her real life could begin. Claire stood at her floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city sprawled below. Somewhere out there, Ethan was tucking Lily into bed, probably reading her a story or singing her a song. Somewhere out there was a worn apartment in a modest building where a single father was doing his best with what he had, and somehow making it enough. And tomorrow, Claire would step into that world, would eat pancakes and watch cartoons and probably color more Christmas trees, would let herself be part of something messy and real and absolutely terrifying. Her phone buzzed one last time. Another text from Ethan. "Lily says to tell you she's making you a special Christmas picture for tomorrow. I told her not to get her hopes up in case you changed your mind. She told me you won't. She's pretty sure you're a good person who keeps promises. She might be smarter than both of us." Claire looked at her reflection in the dark window, saw the woman she'd become, successful, powerful, alone, and the woman she might still be, open, hopeful, willing to take a chance. "She is definitely smarter than both of us," Claire typed back. "Tell her I can't wait to see her picture. And Ethan? I don't break promises either. She meant it." For the first time in years, standing in her empty penthouse on Christmas Eve, Claire meant every word. Claire woke at 6:30 on Christmas morning, which was ridiculous because she'd set her alarm for 8, but her body had apparently decided that today was too important for sleeping in, and her mind was already racing through everything that could go wrong with showing up at a near stranger's apartment for pancakes and cartoons. She stood in her walk-in closet for 20 minutes, pulling out outfits and discarding them. Too formal, too casual, too much like she was trying too hard. Finally, she settled on dark jeans, designer but not obviously so, and a soft cream sweater that felt appropriate for Christmas morning without screaming that it cost more than most people's monthly grocery budget. The presents were harder. Claire stared at the wrapped gifts her assistant had ordered, expensive and impersonal, nothing that would work for a 7-year-old she'd just met or a man who'd run through a snowstorm in worn shoes. She couldn't show up empty-handed on Christmas, but she also couldn't show up with gifts that would highlight the financial chasm between them. At 7:15, she was in her car, directing James to the 24-hour drugstore on 5th. At 7:45, she was back in her penthouse with a shopping bag full of supplies, wrapping paper spread across her dining room table, moving with the kind of focused intensity she usually reserved for corporate negotiations. By 8:30, she had something that felt right. Not perfect, but honest. Real in a way her life rarely was anymore. The drive to Ethan's neighborhood looked different in daylight. The buildings that had seemed run down in the dark now just looked lived in, decorated with mismatched Christmas lights and window displays clearly made by children. A few kids were already outside, testing new bikes and sleds in the fresh snow, their laughter carrying through the cold air. Claire clutched her shopping bag tighter as James pulled up to Ethan's building. "What time should I return, Ms. Whitman?" It was a fair question, a normal question, but Claire found herself hesitating because she didn't know the answer, didn't know if this would be an awkward hour of forced conversation or something more. "I'll text you," she said finally. "Thank you, James. And Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas, Ms. Whitman." There was warmth in his voice, the kind that came from watching someone take a chance. "Enjoy your pancakes." The building's security door was propped open with a brick, and Claire could hear music playing from one of the ground floor apartments. Something cheerful and off-key, probably a family opening presents. She climbed to the 3rd floor, her heels clicking against worn linoleum, and found herself standing outside apartment 3C, staring at the paper snowflakes visible through the window. This was insane. She was a CEO showing up at a struggling single father's apartment on Christmas morning after one chaotic date. What was she doing? Before she could spiral further, the door flew open and Lily appeared, already dressed in what looked like new pajamas, red flannel covered in snowmen. You came! The girl launched herself at Claire's legs, wrapping her arms around Claire's knees with unrestrained joy. Daddy said you would, but I was still a little worried because sometimes grown-ups say things they don't mean. But you're here, and it's Christmas, and do you want to see my new pajamas? Santa brought them, and they have pockets. Lily, let her breathe. Ethan appeared behind his daughter, looking simultaneously relieved and terrified. He was wearing jeans and a faded college sweatshirt, his hair still damp from a shower, his feet bare. He looked real and rumpled and nothing like the men Claire usually spent time with. Sorry, someone's been up since 5:30 waiting for you. Not waiting, Lily insisted. Opening presents, but also maybe a little bit waiting. Claire found herself laughing as she followed them inside. The apartment was tiny, everything visible from the entrance in one sweep. A living room that doubled as a dining room, a kitchen barely big enough for one person, 2 doorways that probably led to bedrooms and a bathroom. But it was warm and clean, and every surface held evidence of Lily's presence. Crayon drawings taped to walls, a fortress of couch cushions in the corner, toys organized in plastic bins that had seen better days. A small Christmas tree stood by the window, decorated with homemade ornaments and those paper snowflakes Claire had seen from outside. Presents were already scattered around it, wrapping paper torn and discarded. A few new toys already being played with based on the doll now sitting in Lily's cushion fort. We already opened our presents, Lily explained, taking Claire's hand and pulling her toward the tree. But Daddy said we had to wait for you before pancakes because that's good manners. Are you hungry? I'm very hungry. I've been hungry since 5:30. Lily, I'm very hungry too, Claire said, squeezing the girl's hand. And these pajamas are fantastic. Pockets are very important. That's what I said. Lily spun around, making the pajamas flare out. Daddy doesn't understand about pockets. Ethan caught Claire's eye over Lily's head, and she saw the question there, the uncertainty. Are you okay? Is this too weird? Do you want to run? Claire smiled and shook her head slightly. I'm okay. This is perfect. I'm not running. Something in his expression softened, relief mixing with something warmer that made Claire's pulse quicken. Pancakes it is, he said. Lily, why don't you show Claire your new coloring book while I start breakfast? Okay. Lily grabbed Claire's hand again, dragging her toward the couch. It has unicorns and castles and everything. It's the best coloring book ever. As Lily spread the coloring book across the coffee table, scratched but sturdy, probably second-hand, Claire heard Ethan moving around the kitchen, the sound of cabinet doors opening, pans clanging. She snuck a glance and saw him pulling ingredients from a cabinet that was carefully organized, everything in its place, making the most of limited space. This is the princess page, Lily was saying, pointing to an elaborate illustration. I'm going to make her dress purple because purple is the best color. What's your favorite color? Blue, Claire said, like the ocean. We've never been to the ocean, Lily said matter-of-factly. Daddy says maybe someday when we have extra money. Do you go to the ocean a lot? The question was innocent, without guile, but it highlighted everything Claire was trying not to think about. The distance between their lives, the casual privileges she took for granted that were distant dreams for this family. I used to, Claire said carefully, but I haven't been in a long time. I've been too busy with work. Daddy's always busy too. He works a lot. Lily selected a purple crayon and began coloring with careful precision. But he says it's okay because he's working for our future. What's your work? How did you explain being a CEO to a 7-year-old? I run a company. We make things that help other businesses work better. Like tools? Sort of like tools, yes. That's cool. Lily paused, looking up at Claire with those enormous brown eyes. Are you going to be Daddy's girlfriend? Claire nearly choked on air. From the kitchen, she heard Ethan drop something. Lily. His voice was strangled. You can't just ask people that. Why not? Mrs. Chen says Daddy needs a girlfriend. She says he's too lonely and works too much and needs someone to make him smile more. Lily turned back to Claire, completely unbothered by her father's mortification. You make him smile. I saw him smiling at his phone last night after you texted. He never smiles at his phone. Claire felt her cheeks heat. She glanced toward the kitchen and saw Ethan standing frozen by the stove, his face bright red, looking like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. I like making your daddy smile, Claire said carefully, honestly. But we just met, sweetheart. These things take time. Okay. Lily went back to coloring like she hadn't just dropped a conversational bomb. But I think you should be his girlfriend. You're nice, and you're good at stars, and you kept your promise about coming today. Those are all very important things. From the mouths of babes, Claire thought, and found herself fighting a smile. Ethan appeared a moment later with a glass of orange juice, setting it on the coffee table in front of Claire with shaking hands. I'm so sorry, he muttered. She has no filter. It's fine, Claire assured him, and meant it. She's honest. I appreciate honest. Still, there should be some kind of statute of limitations on embarrassing questions before 9 a.m. on Christmas. He ruffled Lily's hair affectionately despite his embarrassment. Pancakes will be ready in about 10 minutes. I hope you like them plain because that's all I know how to make. Plain is perfect. He disappeared back into the kitchen, and Claire found herself relaxing into the worn couch cushions, listening to Lily's running commentary on her coloring choices while pancake batter sizzled in the background and snow fell past the window, and everything felt startlingly, dangerously normal. This was what she'd been missing, Claire realized. Not the money or the success or the corner office with the view. This, the casual intimacy of breakfast being made in the next room, a child's warm presence beside her, the feeling of being part of something instead of just observing from outside. When had she last felt like she belonged somewhere? Breakfast, Ethan called, and Lily scrambled up immediately, pulling Claire with her toward the small table that was already set with mismatched plates and forks. The pancakes were slightly burned on one side and probably came from a box mix, but they were warm and sweet and served with genuine care. Ethan had even found strawberries somewhere, sliced thin and arranged on top, and there was syrup in a plastic squeeze bottle that Lily attacked with enthusiasm. This is delicious, Claire said, and watched Ethan's shoulders relax slightly. It's just pancakes. It's Christmas pancakes with people I like. That makes them special. Lily beamed. Ethan looked like he might cry. They ate in comfortable chaos, Lily telling stories about every present she'd opened while Ethan occasionally interjected with corrections to her more creative embellishments. Claire learned that Santa had brought new crayons, the pajamas with pockets, a puzzle with 1,000 pieces that would probably live on their coffee table for months, and a stuffed unicorn that Lily had already named Sparkles. What did Santa bring you? Lily asked Claire suddenly. Lily, not everyone, Ethan started, but Claire held up a hand. I didn't make Santa's nice list this year, she said lightly. Too much time at work, not enough time being fun. That's sad. Lily looked genuinely distressed. Everyone should get presents on Christmas. Well, I have a present right here in my bag, Claire said, pulling out the shopping bag she'd brought. But I don't know if it's okay to open presents from people who aren't Santa. Lily looked at her father, who looked at Claire with something complicated in his expression. You didn't have to do that, he said quietly. I wanted to. She pulled out the first package, wrapped in cheerful snowman paper from the drugstore, her wrapping job amateur at best. This one's for Lily. The girl tore into it with the enthusiasm of someone who'd already opened a dozen presents that morning, and her squeal of delight when she saw what was inside made Claire's heart squeeze. A star maker! Lily held up the punch tool that would create perfect stars in paper. For my coloring, now I can make stars as good as yours. I thought you could teach me how to use it, Claire said. I've never had one before. Really, I can teach you lots of things. Lily was already examining the tool, turning it over in her hands. Thank you, thank you, thank you. She launched herself at Claire again, this hug even tighter than the first, and Claire found herself holding on just as fiercely, breathing in the strawberry shampoo scent of Lily's hair and feeling something break open in her chest. There's one more, she said when Lily finally released her, pulling out the second package. This one she handed to Ethan, who took it like it might explode. Claire, really, you didn't... Just open it. He unwrapped it carefully, preserving the paper in a way that spoke of someone who'd learned not to waste anything. Inside was a leather-bound sketchbook, the kind architects used, with thick cream pages perfect for drafting. Nothing fancy, nothing that screamed money, just a good tool for someone who'd lost his career but not his dreams. Ethan stared at it for a long moment,
running his fingers over the leather cover. "I thought maybe you could use it for your freelance work," Claire said into the silence. "Or just for sketching, whatever buildings you're dreaming up these days." When he looked up, his eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. "This is," his voice cracked, "this is the most thoughtful gift I've gotten in years." "It's just a sketchbook." "No." He shook his head, still staring at it like it was precious. "It's you seeing me, really seeing me, not the guy driving for rideshare apps or the single dad barely keeping it together. The architect, the person I used to be. Maybe still am, somewhere under all the survival." Lily climbed into her father's lap, wrapping her arms around his neck. "Don't cry, Daddy. It's Happy Christmas." "Happy tears, Bug." He kissed the top of her head, then met Claire's eyes over Lily's dark hair. "Thank you. This means more than you know." The moment stretched between them, heavy with things unsaid, until Lily squirmed free and announced she needed to try her Star Maker immediately. The rest of the morning unfolded in a rhythm Claire hadn't known she was missing. They colored at the coffee table while Lily demonstrated the Star Maker with intense concentration. They built an elaborate castle from the cushion fort, with Sparkles the unicorn as the princess. They watched the beginning of an animated movie about talking snowmen that Claire would never have chosen, but found herself enjoying anyway because Lily's running commentary was better than the actual dialogue. Around noon, Ethan ordered pizza, apologizing for not cooking lunch, though Claire couldn't imagine what else he could possibly do after making breakfast and entertaining them all morning. They ate straight from the box, paper plates spread across the coffee table because the actual table was now covered with Lily's art projects. "This is the best Christmas ever," Lily announced through a mouthful of cheese. "We should do this every year." "Lily," Ethan's warning tone was gentle but firm. "Don't get ahead of yourself." But Lily just shrugged, unworried by adult complications. "I'm just saying what's true. It is the best Christmas. Don't you think so, Claire?" Claire looked around the small apartment, at the homemade decorations and secondhand furniture, at the little girl with pizza sauce on her chin, and the man who was trying so hard not to hope for too much. Thought about her penthouse with its professional decorations and expensive emptiness. "Yeah, Lily," she said softly. "I think so too." The afternoon drifted toward evening, the winter sun already setting by 4:30, painting the sky outside in shades of pink and gold. Lily was finally starting to fade, the excitement of the day catching up with her, and she curled up on the couch with Sparkles, her eyes drooping despite her insistence that she wasn't tired. "I should probably go," Claire said quietly, not wanting to, but knowing she'd already stayed far longer than anyone would consider normal for a second encounter. "Let you guys have your evening." Ethan glanced at Lily, who was fighting sleep with decreasing success, then back at Claire. "Walk me to the door?" They moved to the apartment's entrance, out of Lily's line of sight, and suddenly the small space felt impossibly intimate. Ethan leaned against the door frame, close enough that Claire could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes, could smell whatever soap he'd used that morning. "Thank you," he said, "for coming, for the gifts, for making this—" He gestured helplessly back toward the living room, "for making this the kind of Christmas I thought we'd stopped having. Thank you for inviting me." Claire found herself stepping closer, drawn by something she didn't want to name yet. "For letting me be part of it." "Claire," her name was barely a whisper, "I need you to know something. I can't offer you much. I live in a tiny apartment in a neighborhood you'd never visit otherwise. I work jobs that barely pay the bills. I have a 7-year-old daughter who apparently has very strong opinions about my dating life." A smile flickered across his face, then faded. "I can't take you to fancy restaurants or buy you expensive gifts. I can't even promise I won't have to cancel plans because childcare falls through. This is my life. Complicated and messy, and nothing like what someone like you probably deserves." Claire felt her heart hammering. She knew what was coming, could feel him preparing to push her away for her own good, to make the choice he thought she should make. "Are you trying to talk me out of this?" she asked. "Whatever this is?" "I'm trying to be honest. You waited 3 hours for me last night, and I showed up late with a kid. You spent Christmas with us today, and it was perfect. But perfect doesn't pay bills. Reality is going to set in eventually, and when it does—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "When it does, I don't want you to feel trapped. Don't want you to stay out of pity or obligation.
Ethan. Claire reached up, cupped his face in her hands, felt his sharp intake of breath. I'm not here out of pity. I'm here because last night you ran 3 miles through a snowstorm for me. Because this morning you made me pancakes and let your daughter pepper me with impossible questions. Because when you talk about architecture, your whole face lights up like you're describing magic. I'm here because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to be human instead of just successful. But I have everything, Claire continued, the words spilling out faster now. Money, power, success, all of it. And I would trade every bit of it for one more day like today, for pancakes with people who actually care if I show up, for a 7-year-old who thinks I'm good at drawing stars, for you, looking at me like I'm someone worth running for. Ethan's hands came up to cover hers, his skin warm against her knuckles. You are. You're worth running for. You're worth... His voice broke. I don't even have words for what you're worth. Then show me, Claire whispered, and she wasn't sure who moved first, but suddenly they were kissing. It wasn't smooth or practiced. Ethan's lips were slightly chapped from the cold, and Claire forgot to breathe for a second too long. But it was real and warm and tasted like possibility, like taking a leap and trusting someone to catch you. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. I'm terrified, he admitted, of screwing this up, of not being enough. Me too, Claire said. I'm terrified you'll realize I don't actually know how to be in a relationship, that work is easier than feelings, that I'm better at running companies than I am at being part of someone's life. Then we'll be terrified together. He kissed her again, softer this time. And we'll figure it out as we go. A sleepy voice interrupted them. Daddy? Is Claire still here? They broke apart, both smiling, and found Lily standing in the living room doorway, rubbing her eyes, sparkles dangling from one hand. I'm still here, sweetheart, Claire called. Good, Lily yawned. I dreamed you left and it was sad. Are you coming back tomorrow? Claire looked at Ethan, saw her own hope reflected in his eyes. I have to work tomorrow, she said. But maybe I could come back for dinner, if that's okay with your dad. Very okay, Ethan confirmed. Extremely okay. Then yes, I'll come back tomorrow. Lily's smile was bright enough to light the whole apartment. See, Daddy? I told you she keeps promises. Later, after Claire had said her goodbyes, another hug from Lily, a lingering kiss from Ethan at the door that made her toes curl. She sat in the back of her car watching the building recede through the rear window. Good day, Ms. Whitman? James asked. Claire touched her fingers to her lips, still feeling the ghost of Ethan's kiss. Thought about the sketchbook she'd given him and the way his hands had trembled when he held it. Thought about Lily's laughter and terrible pizza and a cushion fort that felt more like home than her penthouse ever had. The best day, she said. The absolute best. Her phone buzzed. Ethan, already missing her, already planning tomorrow. Lily's asleep. She made me promise to tell you that you're invited to every Christmas from now on. I told her that's a big commitment. She said some people are worth committing to. She's 7, and she's smarter than both of us combined. Claire laughed, typed back through happy tears she couldn't quite explain. She really is. See you tomorrow, Ethan. See you tomorrow, Claire. And Claire, today was the best Christmas I've had in years. Maybe ever. Thank you for taking a chance on us. Thank you for being worth the chance. She rode home through the darkening city, watching Christmas lights blur past the window, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, Claire Whitman wasn't lonely, wasn't wondering what was missing from her perfect, carefully constructed life. She'd found it. In a tiny apartment with secondhand furniture and a little girl who believed in promises. With a man who'd lost everything but still knew how to hope. Tomorrow she'd go back to work, back to board meetings and contracts and the empire she'd built. But tomorrow night, she'd have dinner with Ethan and Lily. And the night after that, maybe they'd color together, or build another cushion fort, or just sit on that worn couch and watch cartoons. The details didn't matter. What mattered was showing up, being present, choosing connection over safety, mess over perfection, love over loneliness. Claire smiled at her reflection in the dark window, already counting the hours until she could go back. The weeks that followed Christmas moved faster than Claire had expected, and slower than she wanted, time doing that strange accordion thing where days with Ethan and Lily stretched into perfect eternities while the hours between visits compressed into restless waiting. She went back to work the day after Christmas, walked into Whitman Industries with the same confident stride she'd perfected over 15 years, but something fundamental had shifted. The corner office felt smaller somehow, the view less impressive. When her executive team presented quarterly projections, Claire found herself thinking about Lily's star maker, about the way the little girl had been so proud to teach her something new. "Ms. Whitman, your thoughts on the merger timeline?" Claire blinked, refocused on the conference room full of people waiting for her verdict. Right. The merger. The reason they'd all given up their holiday week to be here. "Push it to February," she heard herself say. "Let people have January with their families. The deal will still be there in 4 weeks." Her CFO looked at her like she'd grown a second head. Claire Whitman didn't delay deals for sentimental reasons. Claire Whitman was famous for her 12-hour days and weekend conference calls. But Claire Whitman had also spent Christmas eating pizza from a box with a 7-year-old and her father, and suddenly quarterly earnings felt less urgent than making it to dinner on time. She kept her promise about coming back the next evening and the evening after that. Within a week, she had a drawer at Ethan's apartment, just a small one in his dresser, filled with jeans and sweaters that cost less than her usual wardrobe, but felt more like her. Within 2 weeks, Lily started asking if Claire could help with bedtime stories. Within 3, Ethan had a key to Claire's penthouse, though he'd only used it once, clearly uncomfortable in all that expensive space. They fell into a rhythm that shouldn't have worked, but somehow did. Claire would finish at the office by 6, unheard of in her previous life, and drive to Ethan's neighborhood. Sometimes she'd bring groceries, ingredients for actual meals instead of the box mac and cheese that seemed to be Lily's preferred diet. Other times she'd just bring herself, and that seemed to be enough. Ethan still drove for the rideshare service most nights after Lily went to bed, still took freelance drafting work when he could get it. Claire wanted to help, wanted to throw money at the problem until it disappeared, but she'd learned quickly that Ethan's pride was not something to be challenged lightly. "I need to do this myself," he'd said, the one time she'd offered to cover his rent. They were sitting on his couch, Lily asleep in the next room, and his jaw had that stubborn set she was learning to recognize. "I know you're trying to help, but if I let you start paying my bills, what am I? What does that make this relationship?" "It makes it a partnership," Claire had argued. "People in partnerships help each other." "And I will help you. When I can. When I have something to offer that's actually mine." He'd taken her hand, pressed a kiss to her knuckles. "I know it doesn't make sense to you, but I've already lost so much. My career, my marriage, my sense of who I was supposed to be. I need to know I can still take care of my daughter, can still stand on my own 2 feet." Claire had wanted to push, to explain that love meant letting people catch you when you fell, but she'd seen the desperation in his eyes and understood that some battles weren't worth winning if you lost the person in the process. So she'd backed off on the money, found other ways to help. She started working from Ethan's apartment some afternoons, her laptop at his kitchen table, while Lily did homework and Ethan sketched in his new notebook. She covered dinners out, not fancy places, just the pizza joint Lily loved, or the diner with the good pancakes. Small things that Ethan could accept without feeling like charity. And slowly, carefully, they built something that felt real. But reality had a way of complicating even the best intentions. It was a Tuesday in mid-January when everything started to unravel. Claire was in her office, finalizing a contract that should have had her full attention, when her phone rang. Ethan, calling in the middle of the day, which he never did. "Hey," she answered, already reaching for her coat. "What's wrong?" "It's Lily." His voice was tight with barely controlled panic. "She fell at school. They think she broke her arm. I'm at the hospital now, but the insurance, Claire, my insurance lapsed last month. I couldn't make the payment, and I thought I had until the end of January to catch up, but apparently—" He stopped, and she could hear him breathing hard, fighting for control. "They want payment up front before they'll set the bone. $3,000. I don't have it. I don't have anywhere close to it." Claire was already grabbing her purse. "Which hospital?" "St. Mary's. But Claire, I can't ask you to." "You didn't ask. I'm coming. Don't let them do anything until I get there." She made it to the hospital in 15 minutes, a drive that should have taken 30, and found Ethan in the emergency room waiting area with Lily curled in his lap. The little girl was crying quietly, cradling her left arm, and the sight of her in pain made something fierce and protective surge in Claire's chest. "Hey, sweetheart." Claire knelt in front of them, gently brushed Lily's hair back from her tear-stained face. "I hear you had a rough day." "It hurts," Lily whimpered. "And Daddy says they can't fix it yet, and I don't understand why." Claire met Ethan's eyes over Lily's head and saw shame there, raw and bleeding. This was a father who would have given anything to spare his daughter pain, who was being forced to watch her suffer because of insurance paperwork and numbers in a bank account. "They can fix it," Claire said firmly. "Right now, let me talk to the desk." 5 minutes and 1 credit card later, Lily was being wheeled back to radiology. Ethan stood frozen in the waiting room, staring at the floor, his hands shaking. "Ethan." Claire touched his arm gently. "She's going to be fine. Kids break bones. They heal." "I couldn't pay for it." His voice was hollow. "My daughter was in pain and I couldn't pay to make it stop. What kind of father can't afford to take care of his own kid? The kind who's doing the best he can with impossible circumstances. The kind who loves his daughter enough to swallow his pride and call for help." Claire moved to stand in front of him, made him look at her. "You didn't fail her, Ethan. The system failed you. There's a difference. You paid $3,000 like it was nothing, like it was a cup of coffee." He laughed, bitter and broken. "Do you know how long it would take me to save $3,000? Months, Claire. Months of driving every night, of taking every freelance job I can find, of choosing between new shoes for Lily and fixing the bathroom sink, and you just handed over your credit card and solved it in 5 minutes. So let me help, really help. Not just emergencies. Let me—" "No." The word was sharp, final. "I can't. Don't you see? If I let you start paying for everything, what am I to you? What am I to Lily? Just another expense? Another charity case you're managing? You know that's not what this is." "Do I?" He ran his hands through his hair, looking lost. "Claire, you live in a world where $3,000 is a credit card swipe. I live in a world where $3,000 is the difference between keeping the lights on and sitting in the dark. How is this supposed to work? How do we build a life together when our lives are so different we might as well be speaking different languages?" Claire felt something crack in her chest. "Are you saying you want to end this?" "I'm saying I don't know." Ethan's eyes were wet. "I'm saying I love you, and I do. I love you so much it scares me. But I don't know how to be the man you need when I can barely be the father Lily needs." "You are exactly the father she needs, and you're—" Claire's voice broke. "You're exactly the man I need. Exactly as you are. I don't want someone who can match my bank account. I want someone who runs through snowstorms for me, who makes his daughter pancakes and reads her bedtime stories and sketches beautiful buildings in the notebook I gave him. I want you, Ethan, just you." Before he could respond, a nurse appeared. "Mr. Moore, your daughter's asking for you. We've set the bone and she's going to be just fine, but she'd like her dad." Ethan went, and Claire sank into one of the uncomfortable plastic chairs, feeling the weight of reality settle heavy on her shoulders. She'd been so caught up in the fairy tale of it all, the unlikely meeting, the instant connection, the way Lily had fit so perfectly into the empty spaces of her life, that she'd ignored the fundamental truth underneath. Love wasn't always enough. Sometimes the distance between two worlds was too far to bridge, no matter how hard you wanted to make it work. An hour later, Lily emerged with a bright pink cast on her left arm, already chattering about how she wanted everyone to sign it. The pain medication had clearly kicked in, giving her back the cheerful energy that had been absent in the waiting room. "Claire, look!" She held up her arm proudly. "The doctor said pink was a good choice because it's a happy color, and happy colors help bones heal faster. Do you want to be the first person to sign it?" "I would be honored." Claire accepted the marker the nurse offered, carefully wrote her name along Lily's forearm in her neatest handwriting. "Now, Daddy." Lily turned to Ethan, who signed right below Claire's name, his signature shaky. In the car ride back to the apartment, Claire had insisted on driving them, and Ethan hadn't argued. Lily fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from pain and medication and the drama of the day. Claire and Ethan sat in silence, the space between them feeling wider than the few inches of car seat.
I'll pay you back, Ethan said finally. I don't know how long it'll take, but I'll pay you back every dollar. I don't want you to pay me back. I need to. Please, let me have this. Claire understood then that this wasn't about the money. It was about dignity, about being able to look himself in the mirror and know he'd taken care of his responsibilities. She might not agree, might think it was foolish pride, but she could respect it. Okay, she said quietly, whatever you need. They got Lily settled in her bed, Sparkles the unicorn tucked under her good arm, and she was asleep again within minutes. Ethan stood in the doorway watching her breathe, and Claire stood behind him, not touching, just present. She's everything to me, he said, my whole world, and today I couldn't protect her from something as simple as a broken bone. What happens when it's something bigger? What happens when she needs something I really can't provide? Then we figure it out together. Claire moved closer, rested her hand on his back. That's what people who love each other do. They figure it out. But that's just it. Ethan turned to face her, and his eyes were full of a pain that had nothing to do with Lily's arm. You're always the one figuring it out. You're always the one with the solutions, the resources, the ability to make problems disappear. What do I bring to this relationship, Claire? What do I offer that you couldn't get easier somewhere else? You bring yourself, your heart, your integrity, the way you love your daughter, the way you make me feel like I matter for who I am, not what I have. Claire felt tears building. You bring color to my grayscale life, Ethan. You bring laughter and cushion forts and terrible pizza and all the messy, beautiful chaos I didn't know I was missing. Isn't that enough? I want it to be. He reached up, cupped her face in his hands. I want it to be enough so badly. But I'm drowning, Claire. I'm working every hour I can, and it's still not enough to keep my head above water. And watching you swoop in and solve everything with your credit card just reminds me how far I've fallen. You haven't fallen. You're surviving. There's a difference. Is there? He dropped his hands, stepped back. Because from where I'm standing, it feels an awful lot like failing. They stood in Lily's doorway, the little girl sleeping peacefully behind them, and Claire felt the thing they'd built start to crack. Not from lack of love, the love was there, bright and fierce and undeniable, but from the weight of reality, from the fundamental inequality that colored every interaction, from Ethan's pride colliding with Claire's privilege. What do you want me to do? Claire asked, and she hated how helpless she sounded. She ran a multi-million-dollar company, commanded boardrooms full of executives, could negotiate contracts that made lawyers sweat, but she couldn't fix this. Couldn't fix him, couldn't fix them, couldn't make their worlds align through sheer force of will. I don't know. Ethan's honesty was more painful than anger would have been. I don't know what the answer is. I just know that I can't be the kind of man who lets his girlfriend pay for his daughter's medical care. Can't be the kind of father who has to call someone else when his kid is in pain. I need to figure out how to stand on my own before I can stand beside you. Does that make sense? It didn't. It absolutely didn't. Claire wanted to shake him, to tell him that partnership meant leaning on each other, that pride was cold comfort when you were alone. But she also understood, in a way that broke her heart, that sometimes people needed to find their own way back to themselves before they could fully give themselves to someone else. So what does that mean for us? She forced the question out past the lump in her throat. Ethan looked at her, and she saw everything she was feeling reflected in his eyes, love and fear and desperate hope all tangled together. I don't want to lose you, he said, but I also can't keep being this version of myself, the one who can't afford his daughter's medical care, the one who lives in a tiny apartment and drives other people around for money while his architecture degree collects dust. I need to figure out how to be whole again. And you can't do that with me? I don't know if I can do it with anyone right now. I'm too broken, Claire. Too much of a mess. And you deserve someone who has their life together, who can take you to nice restaurants and buy you thoughtful gifts and not have panic attacks over insurance payments. I don't want someone who has their life together. Claire moved closer, took his hands in hers. I want you. Messy, complicated, struggling, wonderful you. Can't that be enough? It should be. He lifted their joined hands, pressed a kiss to her knuckles. It really should be. But I need to be able to look at myself in the mirror and see someone worth your time. And right now, I don't.
Claire felt the tears spill over. So that's it? We're done? No, maybe. I don't know. Ethan pulled her close, held her tight against his chest, where she could hear his heart hammering. I need some time to figure out my next move, to get my finances stable, to find a job that actually uses my degree. I need to know I can take care of Lily without calling you every time something goes wrong. How much time? I don't know that either. I'm sorry. I know that's not fair to you. It wasn't fair. Nothing about this was fair. But Claire also understood that sometimes loving someone meant giving them space to figure themselves out, even when every instinct screamed to hold tighter. Okay, she whispered against his chest. Take your time. Figure out what you need, but Ethan, don't disappear on me. Don't shut me out completely. I won't. I promise. He pulled back just enough to look at her, and his eyes were as wet as hers. And Claire? This isn't because I don't love you. This is because I do. Because you deserve better than what I can give you right now. You're wrong. Claire stood on her toes, kissed him soft and slow, tried to pour everything she felt into that one moment of connection. You're exactly what I need, exactly when I needed you. I just wish you could see that. She left before she could break down completely, before she could beg him to change his mind. In the elevator, she let the tears come, great heaving sobs that she muffled against her hand. By the time James pulled up to the building, she'd managed to pull herself together enough to walk to the car with some dignity intact. Rough day, Ms. Whitman? James asked gently as she climbed in. The roughest. Claire leaned her head against the window, watched Ethan's building disappear as they pulled away. The absolute roughest. The penthouse felt emptier than ever that night. Claire stood at her windows, looking out at the city, and realized she could probably pinpoint exactly where Ethan's apartment was from here. So close, and yet impossibly far, separated by more than just miles. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Lily wants you to know that pink really is the best color for casts. And I want you to know that I'm sorry for all of it, for not being stronger. Claire typed and deleted a dozen responses before settling on. You're the strongest person I know. That's part of why I love you. His response came quickly. I love you too. That's why this is so hard. She stared at those words for a long time, trying to understand how love could be the reason for both staying and leaving, for both holding on and letting go. The weeks that followed were harder than Claire had anticipated. She threw herself back into work, staying late at the office, accepting every meeting and conference call that came her way. Anything to avoid going home to the penthouse that now held memories of Ethan and Lily in every corner. But she couldn't completely stay away. Once a week, she'd text Ethan to check in, carefully casual messages that asked about Lily's arm, about his job search, about anything except what she really wanted to know. Was he ready to try again? His responses were friendly but distant. Lily's arm was healing well. He'd had a few interviews, things were looking up. Never an invitation, never a suggestion that they get together, never the opening Claire desperately wanted. She saw Lily once, by accident, at the grocery store. The little girl's face had lit up when she spotted Claire in the cereal aisle. Claire, look, my cast is almost all signed. Lily had run over, dragging Ethan behind her, and he'd looked just as surprised and pained to see Claire as she felt. It looks great, sweetheart. Claire had knelt down, examined the names covering the pink plaster, found her own signature still there at the top. How's the arm feeling? Much better. The doctor says I can get it off in 2 more weeks. Lily had grabbed Claire's hand with her good arm, held on tight. Are you coming over for dinner soon? I miss you. Claire had looked up at Ethan, seen him struggling with what to say. I've been really busy with work, she'd said gently, lying for Lily's sake. But maybe soon, okay? Promise? I'll do my best. It wasn't a promise, not really, but Lily had seemed satisfied. Ethan had barely spoken, just offered a tight smile and a quiet, good to see you, before steering his daughter toward the checkout. Claire had abandoned her half-full cart and left the store, unable to finish shopping with tears blurring her vision. That night, Ethan had texted, I'm sorry about today. I didn't know she'd react like that. She misses me. I miss her too. I miss both of you. I know. I'm trying, Claire. I really am. I just need a little more time. But time kept passing, and nothing changed. January became February, and Claire started to wonder if this was how it ended. Not with a fight or a clean break, but with a slow fade until they became strangers who used to know each other. She was in her office on a Friday afternoon, staring at spreadsheets without really seeing them, when her assistant knocked. "Ms. Whitman, there's someone here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's important." Claire didn't have to ask who. She could feel it, the way you can feel a thunderstorm building before the first drops fall. "Send him in." Ethan walked into her office looking better than he had the last time she'd seen him. Still thin, still wearing that same suit, but there was something different in the way he carried himself. Something that looked almost like hope. "Hi," he said, and his voice was uncertain but warm. "Hi." Claire stood, resisted the urge to run around her desk and throw herself into his arms. "Is everything okay? Is Lily—" "Lily's fine. Great, actually. Got her cast off yesterday and immediately went back to climbing everything in sight." He smiled and it reached his eyes this time. "I actually came to talk to you about something else." He pulled a folder from the messenger bag slung over his shoulder, set it on her desk. Claire opened it, found architectural drawings, detailed, beautiful, innovative. "What is this?" "A proposal for your new headquarters." Ethan moved to stand beside her, pointed out features in the design. "You mentioned once that you'd wanted to hire the architect from the Riverside complex. Well, here I am. Or here I'm trying to be again." Claire's heart stuttered. "Ethan, this is incredible, but I don't understand. I got a job." The words came out in a rush. "A real job, with Hensley and Partners. They're a smaller firm, nothing like where I used to work, but they value sustainable design and they actually want my ideas. I start Monday." He turned to face her fully. "I also found a new apartment. Nothing fancy, but it's bigger, in a better school district for Lily. I'm getting my life together, Claire. Finally." "That's wonderful." And it was, truly, but Claire felt strangely numb saying it. "I'm so happy for you." "Are you?" Ethan searched her face. "Because you look like you're about to cry." "I am happy. I'm just—" Claire set the folder down carefully. "Why are you telling me this? Why now?" "Because I'm ready." He took her hands, and the touch sent electricity through her. "I'm ready to be the man you deserve. The one who can stand beside you instead of 3 steps behind, drowning in his own inadequacy. I'm ready to try again, if you'll have me." Claire wanted to say yes immediately, wanted to throw herself into his arms and pretend the last 6 weeks of pain hadn't happened. But something held her back. "You pushed me away," she said quietly. "When Lily got hurt, when you needed help most, you pushed me away instead of letting me in. How do I know you won't do that again the next time things get hard?" The question landed between them, sharp and necessary. Ethan flinched but didn't let go of her hands. "You're right. I did. I let my pride get in the way of what was important. I thought I needed to fix everything myself before I could be worthy of you." He stepped closer. "But these last 6 weeks without you taught me something. Being worthy isn't about having all the answers or never needing help. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. It's about choosing the person you love, even when fear tells you to run. And Claire, I choose you. I will always choose you, even on the days when I'm scared or struggling or feel like I'm not enough. I choose you." The words broke something open in Claire's chest, all the hurt and loneliness of the past weeks flooding out. "I choose you too," she whispered. "I never stopped choosing you, even when you couldn't choose yourself." And then his lips were on hers, and Claire was kissing him back with 6 weeks of pent-up longing. He tasted like coffee and possibility, like coming home after being lost too long, and she couldn't get close enough, couldn't hold tight enough, couldn't make up for the time they'd wasted fast enough. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he said. "I know I said it before, but I need you to really hear it. I love you, Claire Whitman. Not your money, or your company, or what you can give me. Just you. The woman who waited 3 hours for me. The woman who spent Christmas eating pizza with my daughter. The woman who sees something worth loving in a broken-down single dad." "You're not broken." Claire cupped his face in her hands. "You're healing. There's a difference, and I love you too. The real you, not the version you think you need to be. So we're doing this? Really doing this? We're doing this. Claire kissed him again, softer this time. No more pushing each other away. No more letting pride get in the way. We figure things out together. Deal? Deal. Ethan smiled against her lips. Lily's going to be so excited. She's been asking about you every single day, sometimes twice a day. Mrs. Chen is ready to stage an intervention. How about we tell her together, tonight? Your new place or mine, I don't care, as long as we're together. Tonight sounds perfect. They picked up Lily from school together, Claire waiting in the car while Ethan went to the pickup line. Through the windshield, she watched him bend down as his daughter came running, watched Lily's face light up when Ethan whispered something in her ear, watched the little girl's head whip around searching until she spotted Claire. The squeal was audible even through the closed car door. Lily launched herself at the car, yanking the door open before Claire could even unbuckle her seatbelt. And then there were small arms around her neck and a voice chattering a mile a minute about everything Claire had missed in the past 6 weeks. And I learned to write in cursive, and I got an A on my spelling test, and Mrs. Chen got a new cat, and I named him Mr. Whiskers, even though Mrs. Chen says his real name is Tiger, but I think Mr. Whiskers is better, and I missed you so much, and are you really back for real this time? Claire held her tight, breathing in that strawberry shampoo scent, feeling pieces of herself slot back into place. I'm really back, sweetheart. For real this time. Good. Lily pulled back just enough to look Claire in the eyes, her small face serious. Because Daddy was very sad without you. He tried to hide it, but I could tell. He made sad pancakes. Sad pancakes? Claire couldn't help but smile even as her heart ached. Yeah, they tasted the same, but they felt sad. Lily nodded sagely, then brightened. But these will be happy pancakes. Can we have pancakes for dinner? To celebrate? Ethan climbed into the driver's seat, laughing. We can't have pancakes for every celebration, Bug. Why not? Because Claire might want actual dinner food. Pancakes are dinner food, Lily insisted. Breakfast for dinner is a real thing. Claire, don't you think pancakes are dinner food? Claire looked at Ethan, saw him trying not to laugh, and felt so full of love for both of them that she thought she might burst. I think pancakes sound perfect. So they went to the diner with the good pancakes, the one they'd discovered together back in January, and squeezed into a booth that was probably meant for 2 but fit 3 if you didn't mind being close. Lily sat between them, swinging her legs and coloring on the paper placemat while they waited for their food, and it felt so achingly normal that Claire had to blink back tears. You okay? Ethan asked quietly, his hand finding hers under the table. More than okay. Claire squeezed back. This is exactly where I want to be. The pancakes came, a tower of them, because Lily had insisted they needed to make up for lost time, and they ate while Lily told them about her best friend Emma and the school play she wanted to try out for, and how she'd decided she wanted to be an artist when she grew up, or maybe a veterinarian, or possibly both. You can be both, Claire said. You can be anything you want. Can I be a princess? Well, that one's a little harder because you usually have to be born into a royal family. But you said I could be anything I want, Lily pointed out with 7-year-old logic. Ethan grinned. She's got you there. Fine, you can absolutely be a princess. A very artistic princess who takes care of animals. Perfect. Lily went back to her pancakes, satisfied, and Claire caught Ethan watching her with something soft and warm in his expression. What? She asked. Nothing, just thinking about how lucky I am. He leaned over and kissed her temple, casual and comfortable, like they'd been doing this for years instead of months with a 6-week gap in the middle. How lucky we both are. After dinner, they drove to Ethan's new apartment, not far from the old one, but noticeably nicer. The building had actual landscaping, a security system that worked, windows that didn't let in drafts. It was still modest by Claire's standards, still nothing like her penthouse, but she could see Ethan's pride in it when he unlocked the door and ushered them inside. It's not much, he started, but Claire cut him off with a kiss. It's perfect. Stop apologizing for your life. She's right, Daddy, Lily called from where she was already exploring. It's way better than the old place. I have my own bathroom. The apartment was bigger, definitely. A living room that didn't double as a dining room, A kitchen where two people could actually move around each other, two bedrooms, and that bathroom Lily was so excited about. Boxes were still stacked against the walls, and furniture was sparse, but Claire could see the potential, could see the life they might build here. "I want to show you something," Ethan said, taking her hand and leading her toward what was clearly going to be his bedroom. Lily was busy investigating her new space, giving them a moment of privacy. His room held a bed, a dresser, and a drafting table set up by the window. The table was covered with sketches, not just the drawings he'd shown her for the headquarters, but others. Houses, community centers, schools, dreams made paper. "I've been designing again," he said, and she could hear the wonder in his voice, like he couldn't quite believe it himself. "Really designing, not just the freelance work I was doing to make rent. These past 6 weeks, without you, I had a lot of time alone. And I realized that I'd let fear make me small. I'd stopped dreaming because dreaming hurt too much when nothing ever came true." Claire picked up one of the sketches. A beautiful community center with lots of natural light and green space, designed to feel welcoming rather than institutional. "This is incredible. It's just an idea. Probably nothing will come of it. Or maybe something will. You can't know until you try." She set down the sketch, turned to face him. "I meant what I said before, about you being exactly what I need. Not the version with the perfect job and the bigger apartment. Just you. The man who never stopped caring about making spaces that honor people's lives." "I know you meant it. I'm starting to believe it too." Ethan pulled her close, and Claire rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "The job with Hensley starts Monday. I'm terrified." "You should be. New beginnings are terrifying." "Is that what this is? A new beginning?" Claire thought about the past year, the blind date she'd almost skipped, the 3 hours of waiting, the man who'd run through a snowstorm. Thought about Christmas pancakes and broken arms and 6 weeks of missing someone so badly it physically hurt. Thought about standing here now, in his new apartment, with his daughter laughing in the next room and his dreams spread across a drafting table. "No," she said slowly. "This is a continuation. We've been beginning since the moment you burst into that cafe. Now we're just figuring out how the middle goes." "And the ending?" Too soon to think about endings. But Claire smiled against his chest because she could imagine it, years from now, still choosing each other, still building this messy, beautiful life together. They were interrupted by Lily appearing in the doorway. "Can Claire see my room, please? I decorated it myself and I want to show her." Lily's room was small but cheerful, already personalized with her drawings taped to the walls and her stuffed animals arranged on the bed. Sparkles the unicorn had pride of place on the pillow. "It's wonderful," Claire said, and meant it. "Very you." "There's space for a desk when Daddy can afford one," Lily explained, pointing to an empty corner, "for doing homework and art projects. And look!" She ran to the window. "I can see the park from here. We're going to go there every weekend, Daddy promised." "Every weekend, weather permitting," Ethan corrected, but he was smiling. They stayed for a while helping Lily unpack some of her books and arrange her art supplies, and Claire felt herself settling into the rhythm of it. This was what family felt like, she realized. Not the formal dinners with her parents or the obligatory holiday gatherings, but this. Casual collaboration, gentle teasing, the comfortable silence of people who belong together. It was nearly 9 when Lily started yawning, and Ethan declared bedtime despite her protests. "But Claire just got back. I'm not even tired. You're yawning every 30 seconds, Bug." "Those are happy yawns, different from tired yawns." Claire laughed. "How about this? I'll come back tomorrow. We can spend the whole day together if you want." Lily's eyes went wide. "Really? The whole day?" "The whole day. But only if you go to bed now without arguing." "Deal." Lily was already running toward her room. "I'll brush my teeth super fast." After Lily was settled, teeth brushed, pajamas on, sparkles tucked in beside her, Claire sat on the edge of the bed while Ethan stood in the doorway. "Tell me a story?" Lily asked, already drowsy. "What kind of story?" "A happy one. About people who find each other." Claire thought for a moment, then began. "Once upon a time, there was a woman who had everything except what mattered most. She had a big office and lots of money, but she was very lonely. One Christmas Eve, she waited in a cafe for someone she'd never met. hoping maybe this time would be different. Was it different? Lily's eyes were already closing. Very different. Because even though the person she was waiting for was very late, he came anyway. He ran through the snow just to see her, and he brought his daughter, who was the smartest, kindest, most wonderful little girl in the world. Is the little girl me? Lily mumbled, half asleep. The little girl is definitely you.
Claire brushed hair back from Lily's forehead.
And the woman learned that the best things in life aren't the ones you plan for. They're the ones that burst through the door when you least expect them, out of breath and covered in snow, but exactly right. I like that story, Lily whispered. Is there a happy ending? The happiest. Claire kissed her forehead. Because they all chose each other. Every single day, they chose each other. And that's what made it happy. But Lily was already asleep, her breathing deep and even, one hand clutching sparkles. Claire stood carefully, and Ethan wrapped an arm around her shoulders as they backed out of the room, leaving the door cracked open just enough to let in light from the hallway. That was a good story, he said softly. It's a true story. At least I hope it is. It is. Ethan turned her to face him, and in the dim light of his new apartment, he looked young and hopeful and utterly beautiful. Claire, I need to ask you something, and I need you to really think about your answer because it's important. Her heart started hammering. Okay. Move in with me. Claire blinked. Whatever she'd been expecting, it wasn't that. What? Move in with me. Not to your penthouse. This is my place, my space that I'm paying for, where I can feel like an equal partner. Move in here, with me and Lily, and let's build a life together. A real life. Not you in your tower and me in my modest apartment, but together. He was talking faster now, the words tumbling out like he was afraid he'd lose his nerve. I know it's smaller than what you're used to. I know the neighborhood isn't as nice, and the building doesn't have a doorman, and… Yes. Ethan stopped mid-sentence. Yes? Yes, I'll move in with you. Claire laughed at the shock on his face. Did you really think I'd say no? Ethan, I've been trying to figure out how to be part of your life for months. You're offering me exactly what I want. But your penthouse is empty and cold and has never felt like home. This… She gestured around the small apartment. This already feels more like home than anywhere I've ever lived. Because you're here. Because Lily's here. Because this is where my life actually is. I don't want you to give up your space for me. I'm not giving it up. I'll keep it, use it as an office or a guest space or whatever, but I want to live here. I want to wake up next to you and have breakfast with Lily and fight over bathroom time and all the messy, normal things that come with actually sharing a life with someone. Claire took his hands. I want this. I want us. Say yes. Yes. Ethan pulled her close, held her so tight she could barely breathe. Yes, absolutely yes. Move in with us. Be part of this family. They kissed then, deep and slow and full of promise, and Claire felt something fundamental shift into place. This was what she'd been searching for without knowing it. Not perfection, not ease, but connection. Real, complicated, beautiful connection with two people who saw her clearly and loved her anyway. The following weeks were a whirlwind of change and adjustment. Claire started moving her things gradually, bringing boxes on weekends while Lily helped her unpack with enthusiastic commentary on every item. The little girl was fascinated by Claire's work wardrobe, trying on heels that were comically too big and wrapping herself in silk scarves like a fashion model. You have so many fancy clothes, Lily observed, holding up a tailored blazer. Do you wear these to boss people around? I don't boss people around, Claire protested, but Ethan was laughing from the doorway. You kind of do, actually, very nicely, very professionally, but definitely bossing. I prefer to think of it as leading, Claire said with dignity, but she was smiling too. They had to figure out space. The apartment wasn't designed for 3 people's worth of belongings, and compromises had to be made. Claire donated half her wardrobe to charity, kept only what she actually wore regularly. Ethan cleared out a corner of the bedroom for her makeup and jewelry, built makeshift shelves that weren't pretty but worked. Lily gave up some of her toy storage so Claire would have room for her books. It was messy and chaotic and nothing like the organized move-ins Claire had experienced before. But it was also real in a way those other moves had never been, full of laughter and minor arguments about where things should go and impromptu dance parties when they needed a break from unpacking. Rachel, Claire's assistant, was thrilled when she heard the news. "I knew it! I knew you two were perfect for each other. This is the best blind date success story ever." "You get full credit," Claire assured her. "I'll name my firstborn after you if you want." Lily might have opinions about siblings. Lily has opinions about everything. It's one of her most endearing qualities. At work, Claire's colleagues noticed the change in her immediately. She smiled more, left the office at reasonable hours, actually took lunch breaks instead of eating at her desk while reviewing contracts. Some of them seemed confused by the transformation, like they'd forgotten their CEO was a human being with a life outside Whitman Industries. "You seem happy," her CFO observed during one meeting, and there was genuine surprise in his voice. "I am happy," Claire confirmed. "Turns out work isn't the only thing that matters." Who knew? She started bringing Lily to the office occasionally on days when school was closed or childcare fell through. The little girl would set up camp in Claire's office with her coloring books and homework, perfectly content to spend the day drawing while Claire worked. The executive team was charmed despite themselves, softening around this 7-year-old who asked questions about their jobs with genuine interest and shared her snacks without being asked. "Your daughter's delightful," the head of marketing said after Lily had spent an afternoon creating elaborate artwork for everyone on the floor. "She's my stepdaughter," Claire corrected gently, then paused. "Well, she will be officially soon, but she's mine in every way that matters." Because that was the other thing that was becoming clear. Claire wasn't just moving in with Ethan, she was becoming Lily's parent too, taking on all the responsibilities and joys that came with raising a child. It was terrifying and wonderful in equal measure. There were challenges she hadn't anticipated, like the first time Lily got sick at school and Claire was the emergency contact who had to leave a board meeting to pick her up, or the night Lily had a nightmare about her biological mother, and Claire had to navigate the complicated emotions of comforting a child grieving someone Claire had never met, or the dozens of small daily decisions that came with parenting, what was okay for Lily to watch on TV, how much sugar was too much, whether 7 was too young for a phone, even if all her friends had them. Ethan was patient with her learning curve, never making her feel inadequate when she didn't know the right answer. "I've had 7 years to figure this out," he reminded her when she apologized for not knowing Lily's bedtime routine by heart. "You're doing great, better than great. You're natural at this." "I don't feel natural. I feel like I'm making it up as I go." "That's what all parents feel like. Welcome to the club." Claire also had to navigate the delicate balance of supporting Ethan financially without making him feel diminished. She wanted to contribute to rent and groceries and Lily's expenses, but Ethan's pride was still a tender thing, easily bruised. They had long conversations about it, sometimes heated, working out a system that felt fair to both of them. "I need to pay my share," Claire insisted. "This is my home too now. Our home. It's not charity, it's partnership." "But your share based on your income would be 90% of everything," Ethan pointed out. "That doesn't feel like partnership either." They compromised eventually. Claire would cover groceries and utilities, Ethan would handle rent and Lily's school expenses, and they'd split everything else down the middle regardless of who made more money. It wasn't perfect, and they'd probably have to revisit it as circumstances changed, but it was a start. Ethan's job at Hensley & Partners was going well, better than well, actually. He'd thrown himself into the sustainable design division with passion and creativity, coming home most evenings full of stories about projects and challenges and the satisfaction of doing work that mattered again. His confidence grew with each successful proposal, each client who specifically requested him, each reminder that his 18 months of struggle hadn't erased his talent. "They want me to present at a conference in March," he told Claire one evening, and she could hear the disbelief in his voice. "In San Francisco, about integrating green space in urban architecture." "That's incredible. You have to do it." "It's 3 days. I'd have to leave you and Lily." "We'll survive 3 days," Claire assured him. "Lily and I will have a girls' weekend. We'll paint our nails and watch princess movies and eat ice cream for dinner." "Ice cream is not dinner. It is when Daddy's out of town and we're living dangerously." Lily, overhearing from her room, shouted her enthusiastic approval of this plan. Ethan did the conference, and it went so well that other firms started reaching out to him. Nothing that would make him leave Hensley. He was loyal to the people who'd given him a second chance. But proof that his career was truly back on track, that he was no longer the desperate, unemployed architect, but someone people sought out, someone whose opinion mattered in his field again. Claire watched him bloom with quiet joy, loving the way his eyes lit up when he talked about his projects, the way he'd sketch ideas on napkins during dinner without even realizing he was doing it. This was the man he was meant to be, the one who'd been buried under stress and struggle, but never truly lost. 3 months after Claire moved in, Ethan came home with an unexpected question. They were cleaning up after dinner. Lily was in the bath, singing off-key to herself, when he turned to Claire with unusual nervousness.
"I've been thinking about something," he said, drying a plate with more attention than it strictly required, "and I wanted to run it by you before I did anything." "Okay." Claire rinsed soap from her hands, gave him her full attention. "What's up?" "I want to talk to Lily about adoption." The words came out in a rush. "I want to know if she'd want you to adopt her, legally, officially, make you her mother, in every way, not just emotionally." Claire's heart stopped. "Ethan, I know we're not married yet. I know technically we've only been together less than a year, but you are her mother in every way that matters. You help with homework and pack her lunches and know her favorite bedtime story. You're the one she asks for when she's scared or hurt or excited. You're her person, Claire, and I think it would mean a lot to her to have that recognized legally." "What about her biological mother?" Claire asked carefully. "Wouldn't this erase—" "Her mother's been gone for 4 years.
She has no other family who've expressed interest in custody or even visitation, and Lily barely remembers her." Ethan set down the plate, took Claire's hands. "I'm not trying to erase anything. I'm trying to honor what actually is. And what is that you're Lily's mom. You have been since Christmas morning when you showed up with that star maker and stayed for pancakes." Claire felt tears building. "I love her so much. You know that, right? I love her like she's mine." "Then let her be yours. Let's make it official. Let's be a family for real." They talked to Lily together that night after her bath, sitting on her bed with sparkles between them. Claire's heart was hammering so hard she thought the little girl might be able to hear it. "Lily, we want to ask you about something important," Ethan started. "You know how much Claire loves you, right?" "Of course." Lily looked between them, curious but not worried. "Claire loves me lots. I love her lots too." "Well, we've been thinking," Claire continued, taking over when Ethan seemed too emotional to continue. "Right now your daddy is your only legal parent, but if you wanted, we could change that. I could adopt you, which would make me your mother officially, legally, forever." Lily's eyes went wide. "Like, be my real mom?" "You had a real mom," Ethan said gently. "She loved you very much. This wouldn't erase her or replace her. But Claire is your mom now, in all the ways that matter. This would just make the paperwork match what's already true in our hearts." "Would I call you Mom?" Lily asked Claire. "You could call me whatever feels right. Mom, Mama, Claire. I don't care about the name. I only care about being your family." Lily was quiet for a long moment, thinking with the seriousness she brought to all important decisions. Then she turned to Claire with those enormous brown eyes, so much like her father's. "If you're my mom, does that mean you can't leave? Like, you'd be stuck with me forever?" Claire felt her throat tighten. "Is that what you want? For me to be stuck with you forever?" "Yeah." Lily's voice was small. "Because sometimes people leave. My first mom left, even though Daddy says she didn't want to. And I worry sometimes that you might leave too, because maybe I'm too much or too loud or—" "Stop." Claire pulled her into a fierce hug. "You are not too much. You are exactly perfect, and I'm not going anywhere, adoption or no adoption. But if becoming your mom officially would help you believe that, then yes, absolutely yes. I want to be stuck with you forever." "Really? Really, really? You're one of the best things that ever happened to me, Lily. Being your mom would be an honor." Lily threw her arms around Claire's neck, holding on so tight it almost hurt. "Then yes, I want you to be my mom, for real, and forever." Over Lily's head, Claire met Ethan's eyes and saw them wet with tears. He mouthed, "I love you," and Claire mouthed it back, and they stayed like that for a long moment, the three of them tangled together on Lily's small bed, forming the family they'd chosen to become. The adoption process was lengthy and complicated, involving lawyers and social workers, and more paperwork than Claire had dealt with even in her most complex business mergers. But every form filled out, every interview endured, felt like a step closer to making official what had already been true for months. The social worker who came to evaluate their home was a middle-aged woman named Patricia, who'd probably seen every family configuration imaginable. She spent an hour talking to Lily alone, then to Ethan, then to Claire, asking questions about their relationship and their home life and their plans for the future. "I have to ask," Patricia said during Claire's interview. "This is moving quite fast. You've only been in Lily's life for about 10 months. Are you certain this is what you want? Adoption is permanent. There's no backing out if it gets hard." "I'm certain," Claire said without hesitation. "I know it looks fast on paper, but some things you just know. And I know that Lily is my daughter in every way that matters. I know that I want to be there for her school plays and science fairs and teenage heartbreaks and college graduations and every moment in between. I know that I'm all in, for better or worse, forever." "And your career? You run a major company. How will you balance that with parenting?" "The same way any working parent does, by making choices and setting boundaries and remembering that success at work means nothing if I'm failing at home." Claire leaned forward, meeting Patricia's eyes. "I used to work 80-hour weeks. Now I work 50 because I want to be home for dinner. I used to take business calls at all hours. Now I turn off my phone after 8 because that's Lily's bedtime. I'm learning to be a parent, and yes, I'm making it up as I go sometimes, but I'm committed. Completely." Patricia made notes, her expression neutral, and Claire had no idea if she was saying the right things or condemning herself with every answer. But 6 weeks later, they got the call. The adoption was approved. All they needed was a court date to make it official. Ethan cried when he heard, actually sobbed with relief and joy, holding Claire while she held him, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. "We're really doing this," he said. "You're really going to be her mom." "I really am." The court date was set for early December, almost exactly a year after their first meeting. The symmetry wasn't lost on Claire. 1 year ago, she'd been waiting in a cafe, lonely and hoping for something to change. Now she was standing in a courtroom about to legally become a mother, about to make permanent this family that had formed so unexpectedly. Lily wore a new dress for the occasion, emerald green with a white collar, and she'd insisted on wearing her light-up sneakers underneath because special occasions need special shoes. Claire wore her best suit, and Ethan wore the tie Lily had given him for Father's Day. They looked like a family trying very hard to look official, which was exactly what they were. The judge was a kind-faced woman in her 60s who smiled at Lily when they entered her chambers. "You must be Miss Lily Moore," she said. "I've heard a lot about you." "I'm going to have 2 last names after today," Lily announced proudly. "Moore Whitman. It's very long, but Daddy says it's distinguished." "Very distinguished indeed," the judge looked at Claire. "And you must be Ms. Whitman, or should I say, soon-to-be mom." "Claire is fine," Claire said, but she was smiling, "though I won't complain about Mom either." The judge asked Lily a few questions. Did she understand what adoption meant? Did she want Claire to be her mother? Was anyone forcing her to do this? Lily answered each one with the thoughtful seriousness that always made her seem older than her years. "I want Claire to be my mom because she already is," Lily said simply. "This just makes it so everyone knows." "That's a very good answer," the judge said, and her smile was warm. "Well then, I see no reason to delay. Claire Whitman, do you swear to love, support, and care for Lily Moore as your daughter, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for as long as you both shall live?" "I do," Claire said, and her voice only shook a little. "I absolutely do." "Then by the power vested in me by the state, I hereby grant this adoption. Lily Alexandra Moore is now legally the daughter of both Ethan James Moore and Claire Elizabeth Whitman. Congratulations to your family." She banged her gavel, and it was done. Just like that, Lily was officially Claire's daughter. Lily jumped up and down, making her shoes flash frantically. "I have a mom! I have a mom again! Did you hear? She's my mom for real!" "I heard," Ethan said, and he was crying again, but they were happy tears this time. "I heard, Bug. You have a mom." Claire knelt down and Lily crashed into her arms, and they held each other while the enormity of it sank in. This was permanent now. Legal. real in a way that went beyond feelings or promises. Lily was hers, her daughter, forever. "I love you, Mom," Lily whispered against her shoulder, and it was the first time she'd used that word, and Claire felt something break open in her chest. "I love you too, baby, so much, more than anything." They celebrated at the same diner where they'd had pancakes on that first evening, because some traditions deserve to be honored. Lily got the biggest stack they offered, with extra whipped cream and strawberries, and she was practically vibrating with excitement as she told the waitress that Claire was her mom now, officially and forever. "Congratulations," the waitress said warmly. "Your family is beautiful." Your family. Claire tested the words in her mind, found they fit perfectly. This was her family now. This man who'd run through a snowstorm for her. This little girl who'd taught her about star makers and happy yawns and all the small joys that came with being present in someone's life. Her family. Hers to keep and protect and love for all the years ahead. That night, after Lily was asleep, exhausted from excitement and too much sugar, Ethan pulled Claire onto the couch and wrapped his arms around her. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For this, for choosing us, for making our weird little family complete." He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "A year ago, I was barely surviving, working jobs I hated, watching my daughter need things I couldn't provide, wondering if I'd ever feel like myself again. And now," his voice caught, "now I have a job I love, a partner I adore, and my daughter has a mother who'd move mountains for her. How did I get this lucky?" "We both got lucky," Claire said. "I was lonely and lost and convinced that success was enough. You showed me it wasn't. You showed me what actually matters." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, holding each other while the city hummed outside their window. Claire thought about the past year, about every choice that had led them to this moment, about waiting in a cafe and saying yes to pancakes and opening her heart to the possibility that love could look different than she'd imagined. "Ethan," she said softly, "can I ask you something?" "Anything." "When are you going to marry me?" She felt him tense in surprise, then start laughing. "I'm sorry, are you proposing to me again?" "I proposed last time. It's your turn now." Claire pulled back so she could see his face. "I adopted your daughter today, made a lifetime commitment to our family. Seems like maybe you should make an honest woman of me." "An honest woman," Ethan repeated, still laughing. "You run a multi-million-dollar company and just legally became a mother. I think your honesty is well established. You know what I mean." "I do." He cupped her face in his hands, suddenly serious. "And yes, absolutely yes. I'll marry you, Claire Whitman. I'll marry you tomorrow if you want, or next week, or next year. Whenever you're ready, I'm ready." "How about spring?" Claire suggested. "April, maybe. When everything's blooming and new, small ceremony, just people we love. Maybe at the same cafe where we met." "That sounds perfect." Ethan kissed her softly. "You know we're doing this all backwards, right? Most people get married before they adopt children together. We've never done anything the conventional way. Why start now?" "Fair point." He kissed her again, deeper this time. "Spring wedding it is. Mrs. Moore Whitman." "Just Claire is fine." "Just Claire," he agreed. "My Claire. Mine to keep forever." "Forever," Claire echoed, and she meant it with everything in her. The months between the adoption and the wedding flew by in a blur of planning and ordinary life. Claire discovered she didn't want a big production, didn't need a fancy venue or designer dress or any of the traditional markers of a successful wedding. She just wanted the people who mattered bearing witness to promises she was already keeping. They sent out invitations in February to a small group, Rachel and her husband, a few close friends from work, Mrs. Chen and some of Ethan's colleagues from Hensley, Lily's teacher who'd become something of a friend, Claire's parents, though she wasn't sure they'd actually come. 30 people total, which felt manageable and right. "Are you sure you don't want something bigger?" Ethan asked for the 100th time. "We can afford it now, between your salary and my partnership. I don't want bigger, I want intimate. I want the people who actually care about us, not everyone we've ever met professionally." Claire was addressing invitations at the kitchen table while Lily decorated envelopes with elaborate doodles. "Besides, Lily's the flower girl. That's the only VIP we need." I'm going to throw flowers everywhere, Lily announced. Like a flower explosion. People will be finding petals for weeks. Maybe aim for controlled flower distribution instead of explosion, Ethan suggested. Where's the fun in that? They decided on the cafe after all. Maya, the barista, was thrilled to host them, and the owner agreed to close for the afternoon so they could have the space. Claire and Ethan went to look at it one Saturday in March, and Maya had already started planning decorations. Simple white flowers, she suggested, and we can move the tables to create an aisle. The light's beautiful in the afternoon. You'll have that golden hour glow for photos. It's perfect, Claire said, imagining it. This is where it started, where I waited for him and he showed up covered in snow with his daughter. It feels right to make it official here. The best love stories come from the most unexpected places, Maya said wisely. She was only 24, but she had an old soul. You two are proof of that. Claire's parents surprised her by accepting the invitation. Her mother called personally, something she rarely did. We wouldn't miss it, she said, and there was something in her voice that Claire couldn't quite identify. I know we haven't always understood your choices, Claire, but seeing you happy, really happy, that matters. We want to be there. Thank you, Claire managed past the lump in her throat. That means more than you know. This Ethan, her mother continued, and his daughter. They're good for you. We can see that. You're softer now, more present, more you. They are good for me. The best thing that ever happened to me, actually. Then we're grateful to them, and we'd like to get to know our granddaughter better, if that's acceptable. Granddaughter. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Her parents had met Lily twice, both times briefly, but hearing her mother claim that relationship made something settle in Claire's chest. Lily would love that. She's desperate for more grandparents to spoil her. The weeks before the wedding were surprisingly calm. No drama, no cold feet, no last-minute disasters. Just steady preparation and growing excitement and the quiet certainty that they were doing exactly the right thing. Lily was beside herself about being Flower Girl. She practiced walking slowly and gracefully every day, making Ethan and Claire sit on the couch and watch, while she processed across the living room with solemn dignity. How was that? She'd ask after each attempt. Did I look elegant? Very elegant, they'd assure her. The most elegant flower girl in history. That's what I thought, too. The night before the wedding, Claire's friends threw her a small celebration at a wine bar downtown. Nothing wild. Claire wasn't the bachelorette party type. Just good wine and better conversation with women she'd grown to love over the years. I can't believe you're getting married, Rachel said, refilling Claire's glass. A year ago, you were telling me you were too busy for dating. Now look at you. Husband, daughter, whole new life. Sometimes the best things happen when you stop planning and just let life surprise you, Claire said, and she meant it. Any nerves about tomorrow? None. I'm marrying my best friend and making permanent this family I've already been living with. What's there to be nervous about? What she didn't say was that she'd never been more certain of anything in her life. Not when she'd started her company, not when she'd made her first million, not even when she'd adopted Lily. This felt inevitable, like everything had been leading to tomorrow since the moment Ethan burst through that cafe door. She went home early, before midnight, practically scandalous by bachelorette party standards, and let herself quietly into the apartment. Ethan was still up, reading on the couch, and he smiled when he saw her. You're home early. Wanted to be here. Claire kicked off her heels, collapsed onto the couch beside him. How was guys' night? We played video games and ate pizza. It was very sophisticated. He set down his book, pulled her close. How are you feeling about tomorrow? Good. Really good. She pressed a kiss to his jaw. Ready to make you my husband. You know, tradition says we're not supposed to see each other before the ceremony. When have we ever cared about tradition? Fair point. Ethan kissed her properly then, slow and thorough, like they had all the time in the world. I love you, Claire. Tomorrow and always. I love you too, forever and ever. They stayed up too late talking about nothing important, and when they finally went to bed, Claire lay awake listening to Ethan breathe beside her. Tomorrow, she'd marry this man. Tomorrow their family would be complete in every legal and official way. Tomorrow she'd stand in front of everyone who mattered and promise to choose him every single day for the rest of her life. She couldn't wait. The wedding day dawned bright and clear, unseasonably warm for April. Claire woke early, nerves finally catching up with her, but they were good nerves, the kind that came from anticipation rather than fear. Lily burst into their bedroom at 7, despite Claire's best attempts to sleep in. "It's wedding day! It's wedding day! Wake up!" "We're awake," Ethan groaned, but he was smiling. "How long have you been up, Bug?" "Forever, since like 6. I'm too excited to sleep." They had breakfast together one last time as an almost married family, pancakes, of course, because some traditions were sacred. Then Ethan took Lily to get ready at Mrs. Chen's apartment, while Claire stayed behind to prepare. Rachel arrived at 10 with Claire's dress and a bag full of makeup and hair supplies. "You ready to become Mrs. Moore Whitman?" "So ready." Claire was practically vibrating with excitement. "Let's do this." The dress was simple but elegant, cream silk, knee-length, fitted without being ostentatious. Claire had bought it off the rack at a boutique Lily had helped her pick out, and it felt perfectly right. Not a wedding gown that would dominate the ceremony, just a beautiful dress for a beautiful day. Rachel did her makeup, natural and glowing, and helped with her hair, which they left down in soft waves. Pearl earrings that had been her grandmother's, no other jewelry. Simple, classic Claire. At 2 o'clock, her phone buzzed. "Ethan, I'm not supposed to text you, but I can't help it. I love you. See you soon." Claire smiled, typed back, "Love you too. Don't be late this time. Never again, I promise." The car ride to the cafe felt surreal. This was really happening. She was really doing this. After years of being alone, of convincing herself that work was enough, she was about to marry the man who'd run through a snowstorm for her and become mother to the little girl who'd taught her about happy yawns. Maya had transformed the cafe into something magical. White roses and lilies everywhere, the tables pushed back to create an aisle down the center, chairs set up in neat rows for their 30 guests. String lights had been added overhead, and the afternoon sun streamed through the windows, casting everything in golden light. Everyone was already there, friends and family, all dressed up, all smiling at her when she walked in. Her parents sat in the front row, her mother already dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Mrs. Chen was there with Mr. Whiskers. Apparently bringing your cat to weddings was acceptable when the bride specifically requested it. Lily's teacher, Ethan's colleagues, Rachel's husband looking bored but supportive. And at the end of the aisle, standing with the officiant, was Ethan. He wore a navy suit that Claire had never seen before, probably purchased specifically for today, and he was staring at her like she'd hung the moon. His eyes were already wet, and Claire felt her own tears building in response. But first, the flower girl. Lily appeared from a side room, resplendent in a white dress with a pink sash, her light-up sneakers flashing with every step. She walked down the aisle with exaggerated care, dropping rose petals with concentrated precision, and when she reached the front, she gave Claire and Ethan a thumbs up that made everyone laugh. Then it was Claire's turn. She'd considered having her father walk her down the aisle, but it had felt wrong somehow. She'd done this herself, had chosen this life, this man, this family, all on her own. So she walked alone, meeting Ethan's eyes the entire way, watching him mouth, "You're beautiful," as she approached. "Hi," she whispered when she reached him. "Hi," he whispered back. "You came." "I'll always come. I'm very reliable that way." The officiant cleared her throat, smiling at their whispered conversation. "Shall we begin?" The ceremony was short and sweet. Standard vows with a few personal touches. Ethan promising to always run for her, Claire promising to always wait. They'd written their own vows too, which they'd share privately later, but for now, the traditional words felt right. "I, Ethan James Moore, take you, Claire Elizabeth Whitman, to be my lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. I, Claire Elizabeth Whitman, take you, Ethan James Moore, to be my lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part." They exchanged rings, simple bands, nothing flashy, just solid gold that would last forever. Ethan's hand shook as he slid the ring onto Claire's finger, and hers shook too when she returned the gesture. "By the power vested in me, the officiant said, beaming at them. "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Ethan pulled Claire close and kissed her like they were the only two people in the world. And somewhere in the background, Lily was cheering and their guests were applauding, and Claire thought that this might be the happiest moment of her entire life. When they finally broke apart, both breathless and grinning, the officiant had one more announcement. "And now, if Lily would join us?" Lily practically ran to them, squeezing between Claire and Ethan and taking both their hands. "I'd also like to recognize," the officiant continued, "that today isn't just about two people becoming married. It's about three people becoming an official family: Ethan, Claire, and Lily Moore Whitman. May your family be blessed with love, laughter, and many years of happiness together." Claire looked down at Lily, who was beaming up at both of them, and felt her heart might burst from fullness. This was everything. The reception was casual and joyful. Food from the cafe, a playlist of their favorite songs instead of a DJ, conversations flowing easily between people who genuinely cared about them. Claire's parents spent half an hour talking to Lily, clearly charmed by their granddaughter's enthusiasm and honesty. Mrs. Chen made sure everyone was fed and happy, already playing the beloved grandmother role with practiced ease. "Speech!" someone called when the food was cleared and only cake remained. Ethan stood, pulling Claire up with him. "I'm not great at public speaking," he started, and Claire squeezed his hand encouragingly. "But I wanted to say thank you to everyone who came today. A year and a half ago, my life was falling apart. I'd lost my job, my marriage, my sense of who I was. I was barely surviving, just trying to keep my daughter fed and happy while everything else crumbled around me." He paused, looking at Claire. "Then I had a blind date with a woman who waited 3 hours for me in a cafe on Christmas Eve. And when I finally showed up, late, soaking wet with my daughter in tow, she didn't turn me away. She invited us to sit down. She ordered hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. She saw me, really saw me, at my absolute worst and chose to stay anyway." Claire felt tears streaming down her face now, making no effort to stop them. "Claire gave me back myself," Ethan continued. "She reminded me that I was still an architect, still a father, still someone worth loving even when I didn't feel like any of those things. She chose our family when it would have been so much easier to walk away. And today, I get to choose her back. Officially. Forever." He raised his glass. "To Claire, my wife, Lily's mother, the person who waited for us when we didn't know we needed saving, I love you more than words can say." "To Claire," everyone echoed, raising their glasses. Then it was Claire's turn. She'd prepared something, had practiced it in her head a dozen times, but standing here now with everyone looking at her, the prepared words fled. "I was so lonely," she said simply. "Before Ethan and Lily, I was successful and accomplished and absolutely alone. I'd convinced myself that was enough, that I didn't need anything else, but I was lying to myself. I needed this." She gestured between the three of them. "I needed people who saw past the CEO to the person underneath, who made me laugh and challenged me and reminded me that life was about more than quarterly earnings and board meetings." She looked at Ethan, then down at Lily, who was listening with wide eyes. "You both gave me a family I didn't know I was missing. You gave me Christmas pancakes and coloring books and bedtime stories. You gave me purpose beyond profit margins. You gave me love that wasn't conditional on my success or my money or what I could do for you. Just love. Pure and simple and more valuable than anything I've ever earned." Her voice broke. "So thank you for waiting for me to catch up, for running toward me instead of away, for choosing me every day. I promise to choose you back for all the days we have left." There wasn't a dry eye in the cafe. Even her father was wiping his face, and Mrs. Chen was openly sobbing into her napkin. They cut the cake, chocolate with raspberry filling, Lily's favorite, and had their first dance to a song that wasn't particularly romantic, but that Lily loved, so it became their song anyway. Friends joined them eventually, the cafe filling with laughter and music, and the kind of joy that only came from people genuinely celebrating together. As the sun set and the string lights twinkled overhead, and their family and friends celebrated around them, Ethan pulled Claire close. "No regrets?" he murmured into her hair. "Not a single one. You? Just that I didn't meet you sooner. Think of all the pancake breakfasts we missed out on." Claire laughed, held him tighter.
We have plenty of time for pancakes, forever's worth, in fact. Forever, Ethan agreed. I like the sound of that. Later, much later, after the party had wound down and everyone had gone home and Lily had finally crashed from excitement, Claire and Ethan stood in their apartment, officially married, officially a family in every way that mattered. I can't believe this is my life, Claire said, still in her wedding dress, not quite ready to take it off and make the day officially over. Believe it. Ethan came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. This is our life now. You, me, Lily, together. Forever. I waited for you, Claire said softly. 3 hours in a cafe, and then months while you figured yourself out. And it was worth every second. You were worth waiting for. And you were worth running for, Ethan replied. Worth running through snowstorms and facing my fears and learning to accept help in all of it, every single moment. They stood there in the quiet of their apartment, their home, the place where they'd built this unexpected family, and Claire thought about the journey that had brought them here, about blind dates and broken buses, Christmas pancakes and broken arms, pride and compromise, and learning to love despite fear. It hadn't been easy, it hadn't been simple, but it had been real and honest and absolutely worth it. Ethan, Claire said softly, thank you for being late. He laughed against her shoulder. Thank you for waiting. And somewhere in the next room, Lily slept peacefully, dreaming of flowers and cake and having 2 parents who loved her more than anything in the world. Their family was complete. Their story was just beginning. And Claire couldn't wait to see what came next. Because when you found people worth waiting for, worth running for, worth choosing every single day, well, that was when life finally felt like home. And they all lived happily, messily, beautifully, ever after.